Chapter 85. Qin Wentian lay alone on top of a gigantic boulder. There was no movement at all, only a gentle breeze could be heard. However, every time night fell, the gigantic boulder on the hillside would emit a resplendent glow of astral light. Above the dome of heaven, specks of astral light cascaded downwards, illuminating the silhouette lying on top of the boulder. It was as though this was an eternal scene. The second level of the Dreamcast art, Immerse Dreams, allowed one to absorb astral energy at an even faster rate. Not only that, Qin Wentian had comprehended something in his heart, allowing the astral light to unceasingly enter his body, circulating through his entire body, replenishing his energy and breaking through his meridians. Occasionally, Qin Wentian would use the Dreamcast art to cultivate his innate technique. In his dreams there was nothing he couldn't do. For cultivators, as long as they could absorb astral energy, it didn't matter if they didn't eat or drink. Astral energy was energy. The weather gradually turned cold. Occasionally, a cold wind would brush past, fluttering the robes of the youth. However, his eyes were still closed, as though he was in an eternal slumber. Today the sky was dark. Raindrops continuously dripped onto the body of the youth, drenching his robes. However, he was still in a deep slumber, as though he had entered a state of oblivion. In the sky the sound of thunder rumbled, the cold wind howled, and lightning flashed down from the heavens. The youth was still unmoved. However, his countenance gradually changed. The contours of his face became more distinct, and he seemed to be even more determined. The winter snow drifted down, covering the body of the youth, as though he was wearing a layer of snow-white clothing. Snow also drifted down in the royal capital of Chu. Today, the youths of the various academies stood outside their houses, forgetting their cultivation as they admired the beautiful snowy scenery. In the Royal Academy, there were many students strolling in the snow. Many of them were lovers. Although their cultivation bases weren't high, they were still in the prime of their youth, the most beautiful period of their lives. After this age, if they decided to pursue the martial path, they would never be able to find the simplicity they had today. The path of the martial path was filled with hardships and cruelty. Mu Rou inclined her head, gazing at the drifting snow in the sky. She sighed in her heart. It had been over 2 months, yet she hadn't seen his silhouette in the City of Illusions, nor had she heard any news about him. Perhaps, like many other talented youths, he had died prematurely in his youth, and he might not even be well known by others. The history he had created in the Emperor Star Academy might have caused quite a commotion, but this commotion would soon be washed away by the passing of time. There would be new characters appearing, attracting the attention of the crowd. In the vast royal capital of Chu, there had never been a lack of talented youths. Last year it was Luo Qianqiu. This year it was Qin Wentian. However, Luo Qianqiu was still creating his own story. Beside her, the sound of footsteps rang out. Mu Rou turned around and saw Yizhan and Lu Yan. Yizhan used his family connections to bring Lu Yan to the royal school. Mu Rou glanced at Lu Yan, who was standing beside Yizhan. This young girl didn't have a bad heart. It was just that she had come from a small place and experienced many things in the royal capital. It was inevitable that she would develop her own values and choose the life she wanted. And the life she was currently living was undoubtedly what she wanted. This couldn't be blamed on her. It was just that Qin Wentian had said that he had once saved Lu Yan and Lu Yu. Back then, when Qin Wentian was facing that kind of situation, Lu Yan chose to remain silent, appearing to be somewhat heartless. However, everyone had their own ambitions. Mu Rou didn't have the qualifications to blame Lu Yan. At the very most, she wouldn't have anything to do with Lu Yan. Mu Rou, I heard that because of you, the Mu clan has been distanced from by many other clans. Do you want to consider befriending Yanaro? After all, Yanaro has always been interested in you. Yizhan spoke in a light voice, causing Mu Rou's countenance to stiffen, as she felt somewhat unhappy. The incident that happened a few months ago in the royal clan's hunting grounds had naturally spread out. Although she emphasized that it was only her personal opinion, the old foxes of the various clans were all extremely meticulous in their actions. Even if it was because of the attitude of the third prince, Chu Qianjiao, they wouldn't be too close to the Mu clan. Hence, the Mu clan had been distanced from by many other clans. As for Mu Rou, she was under immense pressure. Currently, the cultivation resources of the Mu clan were gradually getting further and further away from her. There's no need for you to worry about my matters, Mu Ro calmly replied, but in her heart she sighed. In the past, her relationship with Chu Ling was so good, but after that incident, Chu Ling didn't just give her the cold shoulder for a few days. Instead, Chu Ling had completely severed all ties with her, even coldly glaring at her whenever they met. Because of a dead man. Yi Zhan mocked as he walked past Mu Ro. Lu Yen, who was beside him, lowered her head, not saying a single word. Because of a dead man? Mu Ro sighed. Had he really died? Mu Ro also didn't know why she couldn't forget about Qin Wentian. Naturally, this couldn't be considered as love. She had only met the masked Qin Wentian once. Maybe it was because of the fateful encounter in the City of Illusions, causing her to feel a faint trace of longing for him in her heart. In the Emperor Star Academy, in a loft, a graceful silhouette stood there. This silhouette was none other than the #1 beauty of Chu, Mo Qingcheng. Qingcheng, why do you have the time to visit an old man like me today? Old Gu walked over. This old man was none other than Mustang's master, Old Gu. Grandfather. Mo Qingcheng's beautiful eyes turned to Old Gu as she asked, is there still no news of him? Old Gu naturally understood who Mo Qingcheng was referring to, as he sighed in his heart. It had been so many days since Qin Wentian had returned. What a pity for a young man like him. Qingcheng, it's very rare for you to show concern for someone. Old Gu laughed as though he was intentionally changing the topic, causing Mo Qingcheng to roll her eyes. Is there no hope? Ai. Old Gu gazed into the distance, as he shook his head and smiled bitterly. I didn't know that Chu Tianjiao would be so ruthless and decisive. He actually made use of the banquet held by Qin Yao to act, not caring about the public opinion. Not only that, he used Qin Chuan as a bait. Compared to the first prince, this Chu Tianjiao is truly too ruthless. What a pity, the chances of the first prince controlling Chu are too slim. Grandfather, why can't the Mo clan step out to help the Qin clan? Mo Qingcheng asked. After all, the Mo clan has a connection with Qin Wu. Things aren't as simple as you think. Behind the scenes, things are much more complicated than you think. The Mo clan stands aloof from the outside world, so naturally, it wouldn't be good for them to interfere. Old Gu calmly continued. Do you still remember the joke your grandfather made with Qin Wu back then? If their descendants were of the opposite sex, they would become in-laws. A trace of a smile appeared on Old Gu's face. If the Qin clan was still the Qin clan of the past, maybe you and Qin Wentian would really have a connection. How long ago was that? Not only that, Qin Wentian isn't the son of Qin Chuan. Mo Qingcheng laughed. Evidently, she had also heard of this matter from her elders. However, ever since the Qin clan moved to Sky Harmony City, the relationship between the Qin clan and the Mo clan was no longer as close as before. Now, as long as that fellow is still alive, everything will be fine. Mo Qingcheng's beautiful eyes gazed into the distance as she silently prayed. Is Qin Yao still doing well? Mo Qingcheng suddenly asked. Back then, when the people from the Emperor Star Academy were searching for Qin Wentian, they didn't manage to find Qin Wentian. Instead, they found Qin Yao and brought her back to the Emperor Star Academy. At the very least, there won't be any danger in the academy. Old Gu replied. Mo Qingcheng lightly nodded her head. Chu Tianjiao will definitely not spare Qin Yao. Old Gu murmured. Based on my understanding of him, he wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal in the dark forest. Grandfather, do you mean that Chu Tianjiao will use Qin Chuan to threaten Qin Yao again? However, he has already done it once. What use would it be? To a person who values relationships, as long as Qin Chuan is in his hands, even if he did the same thing 100 times, Qin Yao would still fall into his trap. Old Gu shook his head. He understood this logic, so did Chu Tianjiao. Mo Qingcheng could only remain silent. The dark forest was similarly covered in a thick layer of snow. At this moment, at the edge of the dark forest, a gigantic black-winged condor swooped down, landing on the ground and sweeping away the accumulated snow. From the back of the black-winged condor, a youth of about 17 years of age leapt down. He was clad in a beast-skin coat, and his youthful features were gradually shedding away, revealing a devilishly handsome countenance. This youth was none other than Qin Wentian. Senior. Thank you for your kindness. Qin Wentian turned and thanked the black-winged condor. If it wasn't for the black-winged condor's help back then, he would have already died in the dark forest, becoming food in the stomachs of demonic beasts. A low voice emitted from the black-winged condor's beak. Qin Wentian laughed. Don't worry, I will remember Senior's kindness in my heart. In the future, when I'm proficient in using the power of my bloodline, I will definitely make a trip there to give Senior 3 drops of my blood essence. It was as though the black-winged condor understood Qin Wentian's words. Its gigantic wings fluttered in the air, and its body soared up into the skies, creating a terrifying hurricane that whistled through the air. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at the disappearing black-winged condor. His heart was filled with bewilderment. He didn't know why the black-winged condor wanted his blood essence. Maybe there was something special about his bloodline. Back then when he was injured and fainted, many demonic beasts took a detour to avoid him. Not thinking too much, Qin Wentian turned around, and with his back facing the dark forest, he once again walked in the direction of the royal capital. On the snow-covered ground, footprints appeared. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a brilliance that was even sharper than a sword. This majestic and towering imperial city could not block his path forward. Chapter 86. The winter of Chu was extremely cold. Snowflakes fluttered about in the air, and many of the pedestrians on the streets wore cloaks. However, some of the stronger wuxiu still wore thin clothes, ignoring the cold. Qin Wentian wore a simple beast skin cloak as he walked through the snow. Occasionally, he would pass by a few inns, and there would be some hot-blooded men drinking wine to ward off the cold as they discussed the major events in Chu. Such a snowy scenery, accompanied by fine wine, and coincidentally, a good friend is passing by. This is the most wonderful thing in life. At this moment, a clear voice drifted into his ears. Qin Wentian turned his gaze to the right, only to see a simple and crude house with a wine stall outside. There was only one table of customers and there were 2 of them. Haha. Since a good friend is here, why not invite him over for a drink? Another person spoke. This person seemed to be in his late 20s, and had delicate features. Although he looked ordinary, he gave off an extraordinary feeling. This person's eyes were clear and spirited, and his smile was gentle, causing others to feel a sense of closeness towards him. Brother Qin, how is it? The first person who spoke turned and looked in Qin Wentian's direction with a smile. This young man was none other than Immortal Drunken Wine, and he was currently drinking wine with his friend. Just nice, I'm borrowing the wine to ward off the cold. Qin Wentian laughed as he stepped into the wine stall. He cast a glance at the young man and asked, May I ask who you are? Meeting because of wine regardless of origin. Fate wills it, we will be friends again. The young man poured a cup of wine for Qin Wentian as he spoke with a smile. His demeanor was extremely carefree, not losing out to Immortal Drunken Wine in the slightest. Meeting because of wine regardless of origin. Just because of this, I have to drink a large bowl. Qin Wentian laughed. Are you sure? The young man stared at Qin Wentian with a smile that was not a smile. Of course. Qin Wentian nodded. The young man smiled and filled Qin Wentian's cup to the brim. As the wine entered his body, Qin Wentian's eyes widened, and he was actually unable to swallow it in a single gulp. Cough cough. Putting down the bowl, Qin Wentian coughed a few times. His face was flushed red, causing the young man and Immortal Drunken Wine to burst into laughter. You brat, do you know how strong this wine is? You actually dared to boast about it? Immortal Drunken Wine laughed happily when he saw the embarrassed look on Qin Wentian's face. Qin Wentian shook his head and smiled bitterly, rolling his eyes at Immortal Drunken Wine. Why didn't you remind me? You said you wanted to drink a big bowl. The young man also said with a smile. Qin Wentian had no choice but to pick up the bowl and force himself to pour the wine down his throat. His face was already red. It's your turn, Qin Wentian said to the young man. All right, it's my turn. The young man laughed as he poured himself a cup of wine and gulped it down in a single gulp. When he placed the cup down, his expression didn't change in the slightest, causing Qin Wentian to sweat in his heart. This young man's alcohol tolerance was probably on par with Immortal Drunken Wine. How about 2 more bowls? The young man looked at Qin Wentian and laughed, causing Qin Wentian to roll his eyes. Is there anyone who bullies others like this? Haha. I'll wait for you to train your alcohol tolerance before drinking again. The young man stood up and said to Immortal Drunken Wine, if there's an opportunity in the future, bring this little brother here for a drink. As he spoke, he took the cloak and bamboo hat beside him and stepped into the snow, slowly departing. His footsteps were extremely slow, just like an ordinary person. This caused Qin Wentian to feel that this person was extraordinary. This person's strength should be extraordinary, right? Qin Wentian asked Immortal Drunken Wine. Immortal Drunken Wine shook his head as he stared at the back of the young man, feeling that it was a pity. This man is extremely intelligent and has a high sense of righteousness. The only regretful thing is that he can't cultivate. Immortal Drunken Wine sighed, his words causing Qin Wentian's countenance to stiffen as a look of bewilderment flashed in his eyes. Immortal Drunken Wine was a straightforward person. Since he said that the young man was extremely intelligent and righteous, it was obvious that the young man was an extraordinary character. However, it was truly a pity that such a person couldn't cultivate. Qin Wentian couldn't help but think of himself. Back then, when he couldn't cultivate, he was also treated coldly by many people. If the other party was an ordinary person, it would still be fine. But if he was born in a noble family, it would be extremely difficult for him to survive. And from the aura of the young man, it seemed that the latter was more likely. Nowadays, there are rumors saying that you've already died. Who would have thought that you would appear here today? How gratifying. Immortal Drunken Wine smiled as he raised his cup to Qin Wentian. My luck isn't bad, it can be said that I've escaped death. Qin Wentian laughed. This time it was even more dangerous than when he was chased by Orphan. If not for the wave of demonic beasts, if not for the black-winged condor, if not for that stroke of good fortune, he would have already been buried in the dark forest. Just like what many people had told him, there were many geniuses in the outside world, but the number of geniuses who died prematurely was also not small. One who survives a great calamity is bound to have good fortune later on. Immortal Drunken Wine didn't probe any further. What do you plan to do next? Return to the academy. Before returning to the academy, I'm preparing to make a trip to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Didn't you say that you wanted me to gift you a good sword? Do you want to come with me? Qin Wentian smiled as he looked at Immortal Drunken Wine. Immortal Drunken Wine's eyes lit up as he laughed. It seems like you've made some progress in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. Let's go. I'll accompany you to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. As he spoke, Immortal Drunken Wine stood up and walked with Qin Wentian on the snowy ground, heading towards the direction of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Their pace was extremely fast. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's return, Francis was also extremely happy. He had always been paying close attention to news regarding Qin Wentian. Not long ago, there was a rumor that Qin Wentian had died in the dark forest, causing him to be extremely worried. After knowing the purpose of Qin Wentian's visit, Francis informed Yang Chan. After which, Yang Chan sent over 3 other powerful weaponsmiths to Francis's personal weaponsmithing hall. Together with Francis, they used the most suitable materials to forge a divine weapon. Only the most important step, the inscribing of divine inscriptions, was left to Qin Wentian. The final result caused Yang Chan to be extremely excited, because the divine weapon forged was a second-level high-grade origin sword. The value of this type of sword was extremely high. It was able to amplify the strength of cultivators at the upper 3 levels of the arterial circulation realm, and even more so for cultivators at the middle and lower 3 levels of the arterial circulation realm. In addition to the yuan storage effect, once he had a suitable innate technique, the power he could unleash would be terrifying. Qin Wentian gifted Immortal Drunken Wine a second-level high-grade origin sword. Currently, he was only able to forge second-level divine weapons. If one day he was able to forge a third-level divine weapon, he would gift Immortal Drunken Wine another one. Qin Wentian's comprehension of divine inscriptions had improved, and he was able to forge a second-level high-grade origin sword. Naturally, he wouldn't lack yuan meteor stones for his cultivation in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Qin Wentian didn't immediately return to the Emperor Star Academy. Instead, he asked Yang Chan to help him gather information about Qin Yao. After learning that Qin Yao was currently in the Emperor Star Academy, his heart was at ease, and he was filled with gratitude. Luckily, the Emperor Star Academy was willing to help him. According to Yang Chan, the person who made the decision was one of the 9 honorary elders of the Emperor Star Academy. After that, Qin Wentian spent his days sleeping. Even Francis didn't know what he was doing. However, at this moment in Qin Wentian's dreams, he stood in an empty world. In this world, it was as though he was the only person. In front of Qin Wentian there were 2 gigantic diagrams. One of the diagrams was extremely complicated, and the runic lines on it were constantly changing, as though they were manifesting divine imprints. This was one of the cultivation arts that Qin Wentian cultivated, the spirit refinement method. By comprehending the diagrams, one could borrow the power of the divine imprints, using the astral energy of heaven and earth to condense one's divine energy. The second diagram was slightly simpler. Every stroke was filled with a majestic aura. A single stroke depicted mountains and rivers, and a single stroke depicted the spring and autumn. This diagram was majestic, representing the mountains and rivers of heaven and earth. This diagram was the rivers and mountains diagram. It was a gift from the green-robed middle-aged man who was born in the 9 peaks of the dark forest. It was incomparably mystical. It was as though the middle-aged man had used his dreams to form a diagram, drawing out the heavens, earth, mountains and rivers in his heart. Under the comprehension of the middle-aged man, the meridians of the human body, the various types of innate techniques, and even the transformations of the mountains and rivers could all be drawn out in this diagram. What a terrifying comprehension ability, to actually use dreams to form the rivers and mountains diagram. Not only that, the rivers and mountains diagram is actually a terrifying cultivation art like the spirit refinement method. A thought flashed in Qin Wentian's mind. The spirit refinement method used the power of divine imprints to condense divine energy, which could then be transformed into innate techniques. This was a method that very few people dared to think of. Faintly, there seemed to be a connection between the rivers and mountains diagram. From this, one could see how tyrannical the comprehension ability of the green-robed middle-aged man was. One could very well imagine that this middle-aged man was a peerless genius. Although the rivers and mountains diagram wasn't a cultivation art or innate technique, its value was still immeasurable. It was as though it could allow one to comprehend the myriad of existences in the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian could only slowly comprehend the profoundness contained within. Qin Wentian immersed himself in the 2 diagrams. Within these few days, he could feel that his comprehension of second-level divine imprints had improved tremendously. He could now easily inscribe second-level divine imprints. At the same time, the speed at which he condensed divine energy from his astral body grew increasingly faster. When the day came where he could condense divine energy in an instant, he would be able to use second-level divine imprints to condense his own divine energy. In the royal capital of Chu, snowflakes were still drifting about. The accumulated snow grew thicker and thicker. Many of the younger youths even piled up snowmen, while the older disciples of the martial academies were still busy with their cultivation, attempting to break through. At this moment, the demon-level genius of the Emperor Star Academy, Luo Qianxiu, was sitting cross-legged on the roof of a building, allowing the snowflakes to drift about freely. However, the snowflakes couldn't even touch his body. Bolts of lightning crackled around him, emitting a terrifying aura. Within his body, the terrifying astral energy from the lightning attribute frenziedly gushed into his arterial pathways, wanting to open up another arterial pathway and step into the 8th level of arterial circulation. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was blocked. As he opened his eyes, flashes of lightning could be seen flickering within. He cast his gaze in the direction of the heavenly star pavilion. What his father had failed to accomplish in the past, he would definitely accomplish it. Retrieving a medicinal pill, Luo Qianxiu popped it into his mouth, after which he closed his eyes again, continuing his breakthrough. Everyone was busy with their own matters. Today, a piece of shocking news circulated around the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Within the Divine Weapon Pavilion, a genius grandmaster was born. At such a young age, he was already able to inscribe 3rd-level divine imprints, causing an uproar. Chapter 87. The news from the Divine Weapon Pavilion was undoubtedly shocking. Cultivators were always busy with their cultivation, and didn't have much time to comprehend divine inscriptions. In addition to the fact that inscribing divine inscriptions was exceedingly difficult, the best weaponsmiths were usually older, and would spend a large amount of time on comprehending and inscribing divine inscriptions. Naturally, stellar martial cultivators who had a forging-type astral soul would have an advantage in this aspect. But even so, it was impossible to inscribe a third-level divine inscription without tens of years of hard work. And now, the news from the Divine Weapon Pavilion stated that the genius Grandmaster who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions was not even 20 years of age. This was undoubtedly a heavyweight piece of news in the world of weaponsmiths. Being able to inscribe third-level divine inscriptions meant that as long as one had the assistance of an experienced weaponsmith, in addition to the necessary materials, they would be able to forge a third-level divine weapon. And these two things were not lacking in Chu. The reason why there were so few high-level weaponsmiths was because there were so few people who could inscribe high-grade divine inscriptions. Inscribing divine inscriptions was the most important step in the forging of divine weapons. However, just when many people were trying to find out who this young genius Grandmaster was, the Divine Weapon Pavilion had completely sealed off the news. Evidently, the news that had been leaked by the Divine Weapon Pavilion wasn't intentionally leaked out, but was accidentally leaked by someone else. And the apprentice who leaked the news was currently under the strict control of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The loft that Qin Wentian resided in was tightly guarded. Yang Chan seemed to be loitering here, following Qin Wentian around, causing Qin Wentian to be speechless. Grandmaster Qin, as long as you agree to join the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the Yuan meteor stones you require for your future cultivation will all be provided by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Yang Chan spoke to Qin Wentian. Ever since he knew that Qin Wentian was able to inscribe third-level divine inscriptions, he had never left Qin Wentian's side, raising all sorts of conditions. A 17-year-old who was able to inscribe third-level divine inscriptions, there had never been such a character in the history of Chu. He was very clear on what he had to do. Even if I forge a divine weapon to exchange for it, it should be enough to support my cultivation at this stage. Qin Wentian replied, "What I lack now is not Yuan meteor stones." "I understand." Yang Chan smiled and said, "If it's a beautiful woman, I will try my best to satisfy Master Qin." As he spoke, Yang Chan gave Qin Wentian a dubious look, causing Qin Wentian to be speechless. "Old Yang, just call me Wentian." Qin Wentian bitterly smiled as he shook his head. Being addressed as Grandmaster Qin sounded a little awkward. "Yang Chan, how did it go with Master Qin?" At this moment, a melodious voice drifted over from outside, causing Yang Chen's countenance to turn solemn as he stared at Qin Wentian. "Grandmaster Qin, the Vice Pavilion Lord of the Divine Weapon Pavilion is here personally." Qin Wentian was startled as well. The Vice Pavilion Lord of the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Considering the wealth of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the Vice Pavilion Lord's status was definitely extraordinary. Very quickly, Qin Wentian saw a beautiful lady walking in. This lady looked to be around 25 years of age, with exquisite facial features, fair skin, and an alluring figure. Just a single glance at her would cause one's heart to flutter. "What a handsome fellow. I'll just call you Wentian. My name is Lu Yen. If you don't mind, you can just call me Sister Yen." The lady's voice was clear and melodious, as though it had a special charm to it, causing those who heard it to feel comfortable. With a single greeting, it was as though the distance between her and Qin Wentian had shortened. "Sister Yen." Qin Wentian smiled as he returned the greeting. Yang Chan doesn't really know how to entertain people, so don't blame him. I'm here to tell you that from today onwards, all the resources of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will be open to you, including cultivation arts, innate techniques, and even high-level divine imprints. At the same time, the Yuan meteor stones that you require for your cultivation will be provided by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The information network of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will also be open to you. And if you need help, the Yuanfu realm experts of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will also be willing to help you. And Luyan smiled as she spoke, causing Yang Chan and Francis, who were standing at the side, to tremble in fear. Such conditions were simply too terrifying. What do I need to do? Qin Wentian knew that in order to gain something, there must be a price to pay. The Divine Weapon Pavilion doesn't have any requirements for you. And Liuyan's smile bloomed like a blossoming flower as she passed a token to Qin Wentian. This token will grant you the authority of a Vice Pavilion head. The same as mine. Qin Wentian didn't stretch his hands out to receive it, but An Luyan stepped forward and grabbed Qin Wentian's hand, before stuffing the token into Qin Wentian's hands. Little fellow, I want to see how you are going to freeload. An Luyan's beautiful eyes winked at Qin Wentian, before she left with a smile on her face, leaving behind a speechless Qin Wentian. The Divine Weapon Pavilion didn't have any requirements for him, but just like An Luyan's final words, how could he be so shameless as to freeload? The reason why the Divine Weapon Pavilion had such a magnanimous attitude towards him was because they had investigated Qin Wentian's background and character. Only then did they make such a decision. Brother Wentian, if you have any problems in the future, feel free to look for me. Yang Chen cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian, as he sighed in his heart. The pavilion head was still the most decisive, not giving Qin Wentian a chance to reject. It seems like I've been tricked. After Yang Chen left, Qin Wentian stared at the token in his hands. Only now did he realize that from the moment An Luyan walked in, he had only spoken a single sentence. It was as though she didn't even give him a chance to reject, and everything was so natural. Although the conditions proposed by An Luyan could be said to be perfect, Qin Wentian couldn't help but to admire her methods. I'm going out for a walk. Qin Wentian spoke to Francis. After which, he donned his beast skin robe and walked out. Outside, the sky was still filled with drifting snowflakes. Qin Wentian inclined his head and cast a glance at the sky as he murmured in his heart. This winter snow, he didn't know when it would stop. During these few days, Qin Wentian had always been extremely tense. At this moment he wanted to relax and take a walk. Unknowingly, he arrived at the main hall of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Although it was snowing outside, it was still bustling with noise and excitement. Many people were busy choosing their own divine weapons. Qin Wentian glanced around, and when his gaze landed on a certain direction, his eyes involuntarily narrowed. He saw a familiar face that he hadn't seen for a long time. Star River Association, Grandmaster Murin. Wu Xiu's senses were extremely sharp. Murin could sense that someone was paying attention to him, and after that, he also noticed Qin Wentian. His eyes flickered with astonishment, but he soon laughed, as though he was looking at Qin Wentian with disdain. I heard that you got Gretchen to warn me. Not only that, you caused quite a commotion back in the academy. You're really lucky to be able to appear before me alive. Murin's countenance was the same as back then in the Sky Harmony City. Although he appeared calm and indifferent, there was a hint of arrogance in his bones. Back then, when Qin Wentian didn't agree to become his disciple, he tricked Qin Wentian into joining the Star River Association. After which, Qin Wentian and the members of the Qin clan almost lost their lives there. From the start to the end, Murin had never placed him and the members of the Qin clan in his eyes. It was as though they were just tools to be used by him. If it was before, Qin Wentian might have been enraged when he saw Murin. But now, although he was enraged in his heart, his expression was extremely calm, as though he didn't care about Murin's words. I heard that Grandmaster Murin is a weaponsmith from the Star River Association. Why did you come to the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Are you here to purchase a divine weapon? Since when did you have the right to interfere in my matters? Murin mocked. Naturally, he didn't come to the Divine Weapon Pavilion to purchase a divine weapon. Rather, he wanted to see if he could find out the identity of the genius Grandmaster, who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. Back then, Qin Wentian was already capable of inscribing simple second-level divine inscriptions. But even so, Murin didn't dare to associate him with the person he wanted to find out. Not even a year had passed, and as a weaponsmith, he knew very well how difficult it was to raise one's divine inscriptions to the next level. And now, he was still stuck at the second level, because he had no way to comprehend and inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. I can't be bothered with Grandmaster Murin's matters. I only hope that Grandmaster Murin will remember the despicable deeds he committed back then in the Sky Harmony City. Retribution will come sooner or later. Qin Wentian laughed. Murin coldly snorted as he continued, Let's hope that you can survive until that day. After speaking, he flicked his sleeves and departed. Since Qin Wentian had already pointed out his identity as a weaponsmith from the Star River Association, he naturally wouldn't be able to continue staying here. Not to mention, he couldn't lower himself to deal with a junior like Qin Wentian in public. Hence he could only leave. What a spoilsport, Qin Wentian murmured in a low voice. After which, he walked out of the Star River Association and casually strolled about in the snow, allowing the snowflakes to land on his body as they melted. After strolling about for a while, Qin Wentian didn't know where he had gone to. In the distance, a white silhouette that seemed to have fused together with the snow could be seen sprinting about, and when it arrived in front of Qin Wentian, it transformed into a blur as it leapt into Qin Wentian's embrace. Little rascal! Qin Wentian froze. He hugged Little Rascal as a gentle smile appeared on his face. Little Rascal, why are you here? After speaking, Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared ahead, only to see a silhouette jogging over and stopping in front of Qin Wentian. On the snowy ground, a white fur coat covered her perfect figure, revealing only a countenance that could topple the world. Emo Qingqing stopped in front of Qin Wentian, lowering her head as a smile appeared on her face. Lifting her perfect countenance once again, Emo Qingqing faced Qin Wentian. Let's get to know each other again. My name is Emo Qingqing. My name is Qin Wentian. A gentle smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he stared at that clean and perfect countenance. Outside the Sky Harmony City, thank you for saving me. It's nothing much, it was Little Rascal who brought me there. Emo Qingqing smiled. Let's go sit at the side. Okay. Qin Wentian nodded. The two of them walked to an ancient tree. Qin Wentian took off his beastskin coat and placed it on the tree. The two of them sat there with their backs against the tree. Emo Qingqing glanced at Qin Wentian, as though she didn't know what to say. She could only stretch out her hands, allowing the snowflakes to land on her delicate hands as she smiled. How beautiful the snow is. Qin Wentian nodded his head, and didn't say anything else. He quietly admired the beautiful scene of the falling snowflakes. Little Rascal lay quietly in the middle of the two of them, as though he was sleeping. The handsome young man and the beautiful young lady, as well as the falling snowflakes, formed a beautiful scene. Occasionally, passers-by would exclaim in their hearts when they passed by. This scene lasted for quite some time. Emo Qingqing turned her gaze to Qin Wentian, and Qin Wentian also looked at her, still amazed by her beauty. You are really a dummy. Emo Qingqing giggled. After which she stood up and walked away. The young lady slowly walked through the snow as her silhouette gradually disappeared. Dummy? Qin Wentian was stunned. Very dumb? Qin Wentian stared at Little Rascal in his arms as a radiant smile appeared on his face. Little Rascal nodded its head repeatedly, causing black lines to appear on Qin Wentian's face. As expected of Little Rascal, it was truly a bastard. Chapter 88. The accumulated snow in the royal capital grew thicker and thicker. Qin Wentian stood in the pavilion, gazing out as he wondered how long it would take for the snow to stop. Below the pavilion, a silhouette could be seen treading through the snow. Inclining his head, he stared at Qin Wentian. Wentian, the information you wanted, I've helped you find out. Upon hearing this, Qin Wentian leapt down from the pavilion, landing on the snowy ground. Uncle Yang, how is my father? Qin Wentian asked the Divine Weapon Pavilion to help him gather information on Qin Chuan. A few months ago, the news of the banquet was leaked out. Many people were dissatisfied with the way the royal clan handled things. After all, the Qin clan was the descendant of a loyal subject. Hence, Chu Tianjiao wanted Qin Chuan to plead guilty. Yang Chan stated to Qin Wentian, your father naturally wasn't willing. Hence, the royal clan decided that 2 days later, Qin Chuan would be escorted into the royal capital. My father is a man of iron and blood. He definitely wouldn't be willing to suffer such humiliation. Qin Wentian's countenance abruptly turned sharp. Think so too. To your father, this is too cruel. Not only that, Qin Yao wouldn't be able to sit still. Maybe they want to use your father to lure Qin Yao out of the Emperor Star Academy, and then use Qin Yao to threaten your father to plead guilty, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Yang Chan stated in a low voice. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. Chu Tianjiao, this person was too ruthless. What sort of character was his father, Qin Chuan? He would rather die than suffer such humiliation. I understand. Qin Wentian gazed at the drifting snowflakes in the air, not knowing what he was thinking. Wentian, this is a divine inscription ring. It can be used for storage. Although it's the simplest type of divine inscription ring, it can still store many things. Keep it. Yang Chan passed a stone ring to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian received it and infused his astral energy into it. His heart trembled. He could actually feel that there was an internal dimension within the stone ring. This thing must be very precious, Qin Wentian said to Yang Chan. In our divine weapon pavilion, there's only one person capable of forging a divine inscription ring. This is because the spatial divine inscriptions are extremely valuable and extremely difficult to inscribe. Yang Chen smiled. Although he didn't directly reply, how could Qin Wentian not understand the value of this spatial divine inscription? Uncle Yang, I'll accept it. Qin Wentian smiled at Yang Chan. Work hard. This is the first time in my life that I've heard of a genius who can inscribe third-rank divine inscriptions at the age of 17. Yang Chan smiled as he patted Qin Wentian on his shoulder. Qin Wentian was clear in his heart that the divine weapon pavilion thought very highly of him. A powerful blacksmith could have endless wealth. If a fourth-ranked weaponsmith were to appear in the Chu country, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Many Yuanfu realm cultivators would all come to seek him out. Qin Wentian undoubtedly had this kind of potential. If there was a day where he could inscribe fourth-rank divine inscriptions, the divine weapon pavilion would be able to hire weaponsmiths to assist him in forging fourth-rank divine weapons. Lifting his feet, Qin Wentian walked in the direction of the weaponsmithing hall, preparing to forge a divine weapon for himself. The snow on the ground of the royal capital was already half a foot thick. Numerous majestic buildings were covered in snow, and the entire city seemed to be enveloped in a layer of pure white. There was a faint chill in the air. Even so, at the martial platform of the royal capital, there were many people who braved the wind and snow to come here. It was said that today, the Yi clan would be leading the troops to escort Qin Chuan to the royal capital, as a punishment for his crimes. Qin Chuan of Sky Harmony City, the descendant of General Qin Wu, would he plead guilty on the martial platform? From afar, a group of cavalrymen gradually approached. Hundreds of soldiers were escorting the iron prison, and within the prison, there was a man with disheveled hair who resembled a beggar. Qin Chuan of the Qin clan. The spectators sighed in their hearts. The group of soldiers escorted Qin Chuan to the martial platform, and after which, a man mounted a horse and stood in front of Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan, the Qin clan has already revolted. Why don't you confess to your crimes, and admit that the Qin clan had long planned this, and hand over all the chess pieces we planted in the dark? That way you can suffer less. That man spoke to Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan inclined his head, and stared at the man, as a look of contempt flashed in his eyes. By Qingsong, you don't have the qualifications to question me. Scram. Qin Chuan's voice was filled with vigor, and his gaze was sharp as he stared straight at Bai Qingsong. Impudent. Beside him, a melodious voice drifted over. It was actually Autumn Snow. She sat atop her warhorse, staring down at Qin Chuan with a cold gaze. Autumn Snow, you and your father are only fit to be the lackeys of the Yi clan. What talent! You're still unable to condense your second astral soul, and without the help of my son Wentian, you wouldn't even be able to condense a third heavenly layer astral soul, and could only continue to strengthen your senses. Qin Chuan stared at Autumn Snow as he mocked. Back then I was blind, why would I agree to that marriage? Comparing you to Wentian is like comparing a crow to a phoenix. Impudent. Autumn Snow's countenance turned extremely unsightly, as though Qin Chuan had touched her sore spot. Indeed, she had yet to condense her second astral soul. It wasn't that she couldn't condense it, it was just that she wasn't able to freely choose an astral soul from the third heavenly layer. Hence, she wanted to continue cultivating, in order to strengthen her senses. Who would have thought that Qin Chuan, who was in the Black Stronghold, would actually know about this matter? Today, the escorts are under the responsibility of both the Yi and Yin clan. Your Bai clan can only be the vanguard, running some errands. Although Qin Chuan was in a dangerous situation, he was still as calm as ever, as though he had already disregarded life and death. Shut up, Qin Wentian is already a dead man. Yanaro galloped over, pointing his finger at Qin Chuan, as a sword intent gushed out from his body. Since he refuses to admit to his crimes, bring him away. Let's set off. Yanaro coldly commanded. Momentarily, the troops got into formation, and prepared to escort Qin Chuan through the royal capital. The passers-by on both sides of the road saw that the few people at the front of the troops were all members of the younger generation, including Yanaro from the Yen clan, Yizhan from the Yi clan. These great clans had already begun to allow their younger generations to roam the outside world. In the future, these youths would become the pillars of their clans. Within the crowd, a maiden clad in white robes and a conical bamboo hat could be seen clenching her fists tightly. This maiden was none other than Qin Yao. Beside Qin Yao, Luo Huan gently held onto her hand. Sister Luo Huan. Qin Yao gritted her teeth as she struggled in her heart. Your father would definitely not be willing to see the scene from back then, Luo Huan softly stated. But my father is a man of iron blood. How can he endure such humiliation? Qin Yao's voice trembled slightly. Luo Huan sighed. Let's wait and see. I heard from teacher that Wentian is still alive, but I have no idea why he didn't return to the academy. I'm afraid that he might come today. As they conversed, the hooves of the horses and the wheels of the carriages trampled the snow on the ground, leaving a trail of tracks behind them. The troops escorting Qin Chuan set off. However, after a few steps, the person in front waved his hand, causing the carriages to halt. The gazes of the crowd shifted to the front. On the snowy ground, a skinny silhouette clad in a beast-skin coat and a conical bamboo hat stood there silently, giving off a feeling that he had always been there. Yanaro's gaze was as sharp as a sword, piercing towards that silhouette as he coldly spat out, Qin Wentian. As the sound of his voice faded, the hearts of the crowd trembled. Emperor Star Academy, Qin Wentian? Qin Yao and Luo Huan shifted their gazes over, as their beautiful eyes froze. It really was Qin Wentian. This fellow, he really came. Luo Huan sighed. What a young man, only knowing how to be impulsive. However, this kind of impulsiveness caused the hearts of the crowd to feel warm. Qin Wentian removed his conical bamboo hat and tossed it onto the snowy ground. His gaze didn't even glance at Yanaro, nor did he glance at Yizhan or Lu Yen. He didn't even glance at Bai Qingsong or Autumn Snow. Silly child. Qin Chuan stared at the silhouette of Qin Wentian standing amidst the snow. His skinny figure was so tall and straight, causing the eyes of this iron-blooded young man to turn slightly moist. It's not that a good man doesn't have tears, it's just that his emotions have yet to be stirred. This was already the second time that Qin Wentian had acted foolishly. Qin Chuan gazed at the skies, gazing at the falling snowflakes as he sighed in his heart. Since the heavens had given him such a young man, why did they have to arrange such a fate for him? Wentian, since you're still alive, why bother coming again? Qin Chuan sighed. A smile appeared in the eyes of the youth as he replied, As a son, how can I not come? I've already fallen into a dangerous situation. Since you can't change anything, why must you still be so foolish? Qin Chuan sighed. As a man in this life, I only wish to look up to the heavens and earth with a clear conscience. Since I already know, I can't not come. Qin Wentian continued smiling as he continued, At the very least, with me around, I will not allow anyone to humiliate my father. In the midst of the snowstorm, the silhouette of the youth stood tall and straight. His words were sonorous and forceful, causing the countenances of the surrounding crowd to waver. Youthful and hot-blooded. Wentian, well said. A melodious voice rang out. Qin Yao tossed her bamboo hat aside as she walked out from the crowd, standing shoulder to shoulder with Qin Wentian. Sis, why are you so foolish? Qin Wentian gazed at Qin Yao, as he gently stroked her face. Aren't you the same? Qin Yao replied, as the gazes of the two of them shifted onto the group of troops, only to see a few troops galloping out on horseback, wielding long spears in their hands. Their countenances were sharp, and their killing intent could be seen flickering within. Capture them, Yanaro commanded. Momentarily, the troops transformed into a hurricane, as they galloped towards the direction of Qin Wentian and Qin Yao. Snowflakes danced in the air, as the aura of the troops erupted forth. All of them were at the arterial circulation realm. From this, one could tell that this troop was an elite troop. Sis, let me do it. Qin Wentian pulled Qin Yao behind him, as he stood there with his back straight, as he stared at the warhorses galloping towards them. At this moment, the eyes of the youth were even sharper than swords. Chapter 89. The warhorses galloped forward, trampling the snow. Their long spears emitted a terrifying sharpness. Even before they arrived, their spears had already pierced out, resembling a venomous dragon, emitting a sharp whistling sound as they dashed towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian took a step forward, causing the snow on the ground to explode. A raging wind gusted as a powerful aura erupted forth from his body. At this moment he stood tall and straight, and every step he took contained a formless, majestic aura. Qi! Two long spears shot towards him from the left and right. Qin Wentian stomped on the ground again, causing the riders on their warhorses to feel a strong gust of wind buffeting them. Their eyes involuntarily narrowed. To think that Qin Wentian could actually unleash such a powerful aura. Abruptly, their long spears were grasped by a terrifying force. Scram! The terrifying force caused their bodies to be flung through the air, slamming into the riders behind them. In an instant, all of them fell off their warhorses. Qin Wentian walked slowly through the snow, his gaze sweeping towards Yanaro, Bai Qingsong and the rest. He didn't expect that Bai Qingsong from the Bai clan would actually appear here. Yet another group of warhorses galloped forward, only to hear Yanaro calmly saying, "Let me do it." The riders halted, and Yanaro galloped forward, arriving in front of Qin Wentian as he stared down at the silhouette on the ground. 2 consecutive times, yet you still haven't died. Today I shall grant you your wish, Yanaro calmly stated. Back then, with his cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation, he couldn't even deal with Qin Wentian, and had always felt ashamed of himself. Now, his innate techniques were even stronger than before, and his cultivation base had already reached the peak of the 7th level, with the possibility of opening his 8th meridian at any time. His combat prowess was a notch higher than before. Today, he would let Qin Wentian die under his sword. Sword-type astral soul was released. This was Yanaro's second astral soul, originating from the 3rd heavenly layer. A terrifying sword chi gushed forth from his body, and his eyes were akin to unsheathed swords. The falling snowflakes in the air were actually shattered by this sharp sword. Yanaro's broken sword incantation has already been cultivated to the 3rd level. There's no suspense in this battle. Even if Qin Wentian's combat prowess has improved by leaps and bounds, he will still die in Yanaro's hands. A young knight stated as he witnessed the scene, causing the spectators to nod their heads in agreement. He should have died a long time ago. Bai Qingsong's eyes flashed with a cold light. It was a miracle that Qin Wentian was still alive today. Bai Qingsong, Wentian has already dared to face an entire army head-on, while you and your daughter, Autumn Snow, can only drag out an ignoble existence under someone else's roof. Qin Chuan sarcastically replied, his words causing Bai Qingsong's countenance to turn even colder. He stared at Qin Chuan and stated, "When he's dead, you won't be saying this anymore." Yanaro sat down on his warhorse, as he took a step forward. Sword chi whistled through the air as he lunged towards Qin Wentian. Between the two of them, the snowflakes no longer drifted down. "Since you wish for death so much, today I shall grant you your wish." Yanaro's hands formed a sword incantation, as a terrifying sword intent gushed forth from his fingertips. What a powerful aura! The spectators watched as Yanaro slowly advanced, while Qin Wentian stood there, as though he could be destroyed at any moment. "You are not worthy." Qin Wentian took a step forward, causing the snow on the ground to shatter as a terrifying aura gushed forth. This aura didn't belong to any other power, it belonged only to him. Although Qin Wentian didn't have any absolute combat prowess, the aura he exuded was akin to that of a peerless expert, exuding an aura of carefree and unrestrained confidence. Huh! Yanaro furrowed his brows, but soon after, a smile appeared on his face. Aura? That's nothing but a flash in the pan, unable to withstand a single blow. Yanaro continued walking forwards, and with every step he took, a powerful sword chi could be felt tearing apart the air, shooting towards Qin Wentian. The accumulated snow on the ground, as well as the snowflakes around him, were all shredded into pieces. Is that so? Qin Wentian released his first astral soul, the Heavenly Hammer Astral Soul. At the same time, an astral heavenly hammer appeared in his hands, as he calmly stood there, akin to a towering mountain. No matter how violent the sword chi was, he wouldn't budge. At the same time, The aura of the 6th level of arterial circulation gushed forth from Qin Wentian. His eyes were as bright as the stars in the night sky, piercing towards Yunaro, causing Yunaro's eyes to tremble. Within Qin Wentian's eyes, Yunaro could see an intense sense of self-confidence, determination, and even arrogance. Such a gaze would cause people to involuntarily feel how insignificant they were. Boom! Qin Wentian took a step forwards, causing Yunaro's heart to tremble involuntarily. I don't believe it. Even if he's at the 6th level of arterial circulation, how can he shake me? Yunaro silently stated in his heart, as he continued stepping forwards. The sword chi howled in rage, as though it was about to solidify. The shattering snowflakes caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. There's no suspense at all in this battle. Qin Wentian will die for sure. The spectators silently speculated in their hearts, as they felt Yunaro's aura. They had no way to sense how much pressure Qin Wentian exerted on Yunaro with a casual step. They had no way to understand why Qin Wentian's steps were so resolute and confident. It was as though Qin Wentian knew that he wouldn't be defeated. Finally, when the distance between the two of them was only a single step, Yunaro jabbed out with his finger, causing numerous short swords to materialize in the air, before explosively shooting out. Hence, everything would be destroyed by this finger. Qin Wentian would die for sure. Boom! The heavenly hammer in Qin Wentian's hand smashed out without any fancy moves. When Yunaro saw this, he suddenly felt as though he was in an illusion. It was as though an entire mountain range was pressing down on him, gathering a boundless amount of energy as it blasted towards him, wanting to completely bury him alive. No! Yunaro's aura dissipated. At this moment, Qin Wentian gave him the impression that he was a peerless expert, and that Qin Wentian wanted to crush him to death. Rumble! The heavenly hammer smashed into the short swords, causing them to shatter at the same time. Yunaro retreated a few steps, while Qin Wentian took another step forward as he blasted out with his palm. What's going on? The expressions of the crowd froze when they saw this scene. Yunaro was actually at a disadvantage. Not only that, Qin Wentian's attack was filled with boundless might. Although Qin Wentian's attack wasn't strong, it was as though it was an innate technique capable of destroying the heavens and earth. Yunaro lifted his palms to attack, yet his aura had completely dissipated. Cracking sounds rang out as his palms trembled violently. Qin Wentian had grabbed hold of his arm, causing Yunaro's countenance to change. Earlier, this was the arm that pointed at my father. Now I want it to be broken. Qin Wentian roared. With a flick of his palms, Yunaro screamed in agony as one of his arms was broken by Qin Wentian. How is this possible? The expressions of the crowd stiffened. The powerful Yunaro actually had his arm broken by Qin Wentian in a single strike? This caused the crowd to be unable to react. Even those escorting Qin Chuan didn't expect this to happen. You dare! Several enraged roars echoed out at the same time, as the warhorses galloped towards Qin Wentian. At the same time, a silhouette soared through the air, soaring through the air. Evidently, there was a Yuanfu realm cultivator among the escorting troops. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky, only to see the silhouette of the Yuanfu realm cultivator blasting out an ancient imprint towards him, transforming into a life-reaping halo. However, at the same time, the silhouette of a gigantic arm appeared in the air, slamming towards the life-reaping halo. An explosive sound echoed out as the arm and halo exploded at the same time, after which a silhouette soared through the air, blocking the path of the Yuanfu realm cultivator. Celestial Arm Fist, who are you? The Yuanfu realm cultivator glared at the silhouette, his eyes gleaming with sharpness. That silhouette calmly replied, Qin Wentian, you are not allowed to move. Today he dared to break out of the prison. He shall be executed. The eyes of that silhouette gleamed with a golden light incomparably sharp. At the same time, the warhorses on the ground transformed into a hurricane, dashing towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's silhouette abruptly moved. Stomping on the ground, his silhouette transformed into a shadow as he dashed forward. At the same time, a silver-colored long spear appeared in his hands. Die! Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he howled in rage. The long spear in his hand shot out like a bolt of silver lightning. The silver spear slashed through the throats of the silhouettes, so fast that the warhorses didn't even have the time to dodge. In the air, fresh blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the white snow red. In the blink of an eye, the entire group of warhorses had lost their lives. However, there were still more warhorses rushing over. A second divine weapon appeared in Qin Wentian's hands. It was a heavenly halberd. Seeing the long spear in front of him, Qin Wentian took a step forward as the heavenly halberd shot out explosively. His opponent's long spear was directly knocked out of his hands, and the ancient halberd contained a terrifying amount of energy as it pierced straight into his opponent's heart. The warhorses neighed, and the warhorses behind them instantly halted. Qin Wentian lifted his ancient halberd horizontally, as a corpse was pinned at the tip of the ancient halberd, exuding a tyrannical aura. "Who dares to come again?" Qin Wentian roared in rage. The crowd was as silent as cicadas in winter, their gazes fixated on Qin Wentian. In the air, the two Yuanfu cultivators engaged in a fierce battle, yet the ground was completely silent. Only the blood of the corpse on the tip of the ancient halberd continued to drip onto the snowy ground. How powerful! The spectators didn't expect this young man to be so domineering and powerful. That skinny frame of his was akin to an ancient pine tree as he stood there. Yanaro, who was beneath his feet, was almost forgotten by the crowd. Interspatial divine inscription ring. The crowd glanced at the silver spear, and then glanced at the ancient halberd. These two divine weapons materialized out of thin air. Obviously, Qin Wentian had a divine inscription ring with a spatial dimension. It was impossible for ordinary cultivators to possess such a treasure. At this moment, an old man walked out from the side of Qin Chuan's prison. Stepping on the snowy ground, he walked towards Qin Wentian. "Wentian, be careful. This old man is a Yuanfu cultivator." Qin Chuan roared. The old man was the one guarding him, and he naturally knew that the old man's cultivation base was at the Yuanfu realm. A sinister light flashed in the eyes of the old man as he walked towards Qin Wentian. But at this moment, a silhouette silently appeared behind Qin Wentian. The instant the silhouette appeared, the old man abruptly halted his steps. He glanced at the silhouette, and then glanced at the Yuanfu cultivators battling in the air. Who dared to support Qin Wentian? Chapter 90. Snowflakes continued to dance in the air. The gazes of the crowd landed on the young man, only to see him calmly standing there with an ancient halberd in his hands, looking straight ahead. Today, even if he couldn't save Qin Chuan, he had to use his actions to show his attitude. He, Qin Wentian, would not allow Qin Chuan to be humiliated. Naturally, the young man today had already gained some confidence. He had a cultivation base at the 6th level of arterial circulation, and could easily trample over Yanaro. Not only that, he had precious interspatial rings on him, as well as numerous divine weapons. Most importantly, there was a Yuanfu realm expert behind him. That venomous old man stared coldly at the silhouette behind Qin Wentian. "Sir, you don't look familiar." "Old people are already old. It's best not to interfere in the matters of the younger generation," the silhouette behind Qin Wentian calmly replied, causing the countenance of the old man to turn cold. The words spoken by the silhouette weren't polite at all. At this moment, Yanaro stood up, with one of his hands dangling by his side. He coldly stared at Qin Wentian before turning around, intending to leave. "Did I allow you to leave?" Qin Wentian spoke. Yanaro froze in his tracks as he turned around. His gaze was as sharp as a sword, but when he saw the look in Qin Wentian's eyes, his heart involuntarily trembled. Qin Wentian didn't even bother to glance at him. That was a deep sense of disdain and contempt. In Qin Wentian's eyes, there was no longer a Yanaro in them. He could still remember the day when he injured Qin Wentian with a single finger. At that time, he stood in front of Qin Wentian with an air of arrogance. If it wasn't for the fact that he coincidentally bumped into rain, he would have already ruthlessly abused Qin Wentian. But now, Qin Wentian was even more arrogant than before. Facing him, within the prison carriage, Qin Chuan's eyes flickered with a strange light. Looking at Qin Wentian, a gratified expression could be seen in his eyes. Qin Wentian's growth, he was extremely happy. "By Qingsong, do you regret your actions in the past?" Qin Chuan asked in a low voice, his words causing Bai Qingsong's heart to tremble. "Regret? He had once believed that his woman, Autumn Snow, would be a phoenix amongst men. However, upon arriving at the royal capital, he discovered that Autumn Snow's talent wasn't as outstanding as he had expected. Especially when surrounded by so many other geniuses, her talent wasn't as dazzling. However, the youth standing proudly on the snowy ground, holding the ancient halberd in his hand, had already dared to look directly at the imperial army with his resolute gaze. At this moment, in front of the martial platform, the group of soldiers made way, and a few silhouettes slowly walked over from the distance. The person in the lead was extremely young, and the person in the middle was none other than the third prince of Chu Tianjiao. As for the two people on his left and right, they also had extraordinary bearings. As for the person on the left, he exuded a sense of pride and arrogance. He was none other than the demon-level genius of the Emperor Star Academy, Luo Qianqiu. As for the person on the right of Chu Tianjiao, he was clad in a long green robe and had an extremely handsome appearance. His long hair draped over his shoulders, and his eyes were clear and sharp. Yi Clanyu. Some of the spectators recognized these people. These three were all extraordinary characters in the Chu country. Chu Tianjiao, ranked second among the 10 prodigies of the royal capital. Yi Wuke ranked 5th a year ago. Currently, no one knew how strong he was, and no one knew if he had broken through to Yuanfu. If he did, his ranking would definitely rise. The third person, Luo Qianqiu, was the youngest among the three, but his potential was the greatest. Within a year, he would definitely be ranked within the 10 prodigies of the royal capital. The appearance of any one of these three people would definitely attract the attention of the crowd. And when the three of them stood together, it was as though the entire world was enveloping them. Are you guys sure you want to do this? A light smile hung on Chu Tianjiao's face. No one knew what he was thinking in his heart, but this sentence was naturally directed at the Yuanfu cultivator behind Qin Wentian. Your Highness, Qin Wentian cannot be touched. The person behind Qin Wentian calmly stated. Today, he dared to break out of the prison, and that's already a crime punishable by death. What if I insist on making a move against him? Chu Tianjiao's calm voice contained an unquestionable dominance within. Back then in the dark forest, he didn't manage to achieve his objective. Not only that, both Qin Wentian and Qin Yao were still alive. And now, Qin Wentian had appeared here in such a domineering manner. If such a person was destined to be an enemy, then it would be best to eliminate him as soon as possible. If your Highness insists on making a move against him, then I will also advise your Highness. There are some things in the Chu country that cannot be broken. From afar, a voice drifted over. A man wearing a conical bamboo hat stood in the middle of the snowstorm, his head lowered. Even his face couldn't be seen clearly. Chu Tianjiao's calm gaze abruptly turned sharp, piercing towards the silhouette standing in the middle of the snowstorm. He stood there, as though he was the only person in the entire world. However, it was as though he was the representative of some sort of will. For example, Chu Tianjiao stared at the silhouette, his voice as calm as ever. Regardless of the situation, he would always be able to maintain absolute calmness. Such a person was the most terrifying. For example, the will of the Emperor Star Academy. The silhouette in the middle of the snowstorm slowly inclined his head. As the sound of his voice faded, a raging gale gusted up from the ground, as boundless wind and rain blasted towards the direction of the crowd. The entire space was filled with a desolate killing intent. The meaning behind this voice was extremely shocking. For example, the will of the Emperor Star Academy. The Emperor Star Academy stood in front of the crowd, facing the third prince of the royal clan, and expressed their stance on the matter of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian couldn't be touched. This was the will of the Emperor Star Academy. Chu Tianjiao's eyes gleamed with a resplendent sharpness as he stared straight at the silhouette. Their gazes intersected in the air, causing the crowd to feel an intense pressure. If there's anyone who dares to break the will of the Emperor Star Academy, the Emperor Star Academy will definitely make that person pay a price he won't be able to bear. The silhouette in the middle of the snowstorm spoke once again. The sharpness of his words seemed to contain a will within them, making it impossible for anyone to resist. From now onwards, Qin Wentian's life and death would be determined by the will of the Emperor Star Academy. No one was allowed to break this. Chu Tianjiao remained silent. This time around he didn't expect that the Emperor Star Academy would stand out so strongly and stand behind Qin Wentian. Beside Qin Wentian, Luo Qianqiu's eyes flashed with a flash of lightning. The will of the Emperor Star Academy? The Emperor Star Academy wanted to support Qin Wentian? In that case, they would be his opponent. For the first time, Luo Qianqiu seriously cast a glance at Qin Wentian. However, it was merely a glance. No one could obstruct his path. Not even the Emperor Star Academy. Within the cell, the gratification in Qin Chuan's eyes grew even more intense as hot tears flowed down his cheeks. He knew that the words spoken by the silhouette in the middle of the snowstorm had already determined that today, no one would be able to touch Qin Wentian. From this moment onwards, Qin Wentian had truly been acknowledged by the Emperor Star Academy, and had become a member of the Emperor Star Academy. Qin Wentian's future would definitely be glorious. At this moment, a calm smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. He knew that from now onwards, the Emperor Star Academy had truly acknowledged him. This sort of recognition wasn't easy to obtain. Even when he released his dual astral souls from the third and fourth heavenly layers, the Emperor Star Academy had only begun to attach importance to him. It wasn't the same as today. Even when facing the Crown Prince of Chu, the Emperor Star Academy still declared that anyone who dared to break the will of the Emperor Star Academy would have to pay an unbearable price. This was telling Chu Tianjiao that if he dared to break the will of the Emperor Star Academy, the Emperor Star Academy would make him pay a heavy price. Does the Emperor Star Academy mean that he can trample on the dignity of Chu as he pleases? Chu Tianjiao stared ahead, and after a long moment of silence he finally spoke. Your Highness, since you've already captured Qin Chuan, why must you humiliate him like this? I'm sure that the third prince will not forget Qin Wu's meritorious deeds in the past. To treat a descendant in such a manner, wouldn't the hearts of the officials of Chu be bitterly disappointed? The silhouette behind Qin Wentian continued. Not only that, the reason why Qin Wentian came here today was because he couldn't bear to see his father suffer. He didn't come here to rescue Qin Wentian. How could he trample on the dignity of Chu? Just like what you said, how should we resolve the matter today? Chu Tianjiao stared at the silhouette as he asked, Your Highness, how do you intend to resolve it? The silhouette asked Chu Tianjiao. Chu Tianjiao's eyes flickered, as a cold light flickered within. However, at this moment Luo Qianqiu, who was standing beside him, interjected, As a fellow student of the Emperor Star Academy, I wish to see how extraordinary the person protected by the Emperor Star Academy is. If he can receive 3 moves from me, I will spare his life today. Luo Qianqiu calmly stated, causing the gazes of the crowd to land onto Luo Qianqiu. Luo Qianqiu wasn't Yanaro. If he acted, Qin Wentian would be in grave danger. Sure. Chu Tianjiao nodded. Firstly, you don't have the qualifications to say that you will spare my life. Secondly, if I receive 3 moves from you, I need a promise from your Highness, the third prince. From now on, you must treat my father Qin Chuan kindly, and not use any methods to humiliate him. Qin Wentian stated. This was his attitude. Even if it was difficult, even if he didn't expect the Emperor Star Academy to step in, he still came. He wanted a promise. He wanted to ensure that before he had the strength to rescue his father, Qin Chuan would never be humiliated again. He knew that based on his current status, even if the Emperor Star Academy and the Divine Weapon Pavilion were willing to support him, they wouldn't be willing to make an enemy out of the royal clan of Chu just because of him. The implications of this matter were too great. Promise you. Luo Qianqiu stepped out, as a terrifying pressure gushed forth, akin to the crackling of lightning. On behalf of Chu Tianjiao, he directly agreed to Qin Wentian's request. The snow on the ground was crushed into dust, as Luo Qianqiu's aura erupted forth. 8th level of arterial circulation. As the sound of his voice faded, he prepared to act. From his point of view, Qin Wentian still didn't have the qualifications to stand in front of him. Qin Wentian, the will of the Emperor Star Academy. He really wanted to see who the Emperor Star Academy wanted to support, and who would be able to obstruct his path. Chapter 91. Arrogant, tyrannical. This was the current Luo Qianqiu. He directly agreed to Qin Wentian's request, and even made the decision on behalf of Chu Tianjiao. Because he had the qualifications to do so, Chu Tianjiao wouldn't have any objections. Naturally, Chu Tianzhao also believed in Luo Qianqiu. As he watched Luo Qianqiu walk out, he was filled with confidence. The soldiers surrounding Qin Wentian all retreated, and very soon, only Luo Qianqiu and Qin Wentian remained on the snowy path. Gotcha! A bolt of lightning flashed, and Luo Qianqiu's body was bathed in the glow of the lightning. His astral energy contained the power of lightning, and his constellation was a lightning-type constellation. With Luo Qianqiu at the center, the surrounding snow was all shattered into pieces. That aura caused many in the crowd to sigh in admiration at how tyrannical Luo Qianqiu was. As expected of a heavens chosen from the Emperor Star Academy. With a cultivation base at the 8th level of arterial circulation, Luo Qianqiu is already qualified to be one of the 10 prodigies of the royal capital. 3 moves to Qin Wentian would definitely be a nightmare. The hearts of the spectators mused, only to see Qin Wentian keeping the ancient halberd in his hands. Since they had agreed on 3 moves, there was no need for him to borrow the power of a divine weapon. Streaks of lightning illuminated the entire space, and with every step Luo Qianqiu took, the spectators felt that he could destroy Qin Wentian at any moment. That kind of aura was too tyrannical. Finally, Luo Qianqiu's 5 fingers struck out, and his silhouette appeared in front of Qin Wentian. In that instant, the spectators only saw an innumerable number of lightning pythons lunging towards Qin Wentian, wanting to devour him. That kind of tyrannical aura seemed to be able to destroy everything. At the same time, Qin Wentian also responded. Using his divine energy, he blasted out with his arterial circulation imprint, his palm imprint drowning out everything. The spectators only saw the mountain toppling, sea overturning palm imprint being entangled by the lightning, before exploding apart bit by bit. Qin Wentian only felt his entire body going numb as a huge force slammed into him. His feet slid across the snowy ground as he retreated over 10 meters. However, Qin Wentian's body remained ramrod straight as he stared straight at Luo Qianqiu. The first move. Luo Qianqiu retracted his 5 fingers as he took another step forward. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his robe was as white as snow. He was Luo Qianqiu. The Qin Wentian in front of him was merely a stumbling block in his path. He would use his most domineering attitude to kick him away. Qin Wentian wasn't qualified to obstruct his path. It was impossible for the Emperor Star Academy to support a demon-level character to obstruct his plans. There were less than 2 months left. The end of this year would be the time when his radiance would shine. At that time, he would fulfill the promise he had made and step into the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion. This was something his father had accomplished before. Naturally, Qin Wentian's goal wasn't limited to this. Luo Qianqiu's eyes were filled with arrogance and disdain. In his eyes there was no Qin Wentian. Since he couldn't even withstand the first move, Qin Wentian's ending was already set in stone. When Luo Qianqiu once again descended in front of Qin Wentian, snowflakes danced violently in the air. Luo Qianqiu's eyes contained the might of lightning, piercing right into Qin Wentian's eyes. His palms blasted out once again, and this time around, his entire being was akin to a god of lightning. Everything in his path would be destroyed. The arterial pathways in Qin Wentian's body were already roaring. His eyes no longer feared Luo Qianqiu's gaze, and a surge of energy frenziedly gathered in his palms. Forgotten imprint. Qin Wentian's palms blasted out, executing the 3rd stance of the 1,000 Hands imprint, the Forgotten imprint. This palm imprint seemed as though it wanted to draw out all the astral energy in his arterial pathways. This palm imprint wanted to break apart all illusions and shatter everything in its path. As the attacks of the two collided, a terrifying shockwave swept outwards. With the two of them at the center, the accumulated snow in a circumference was swept up into the air, transforming into a hurricane that danced chaotically in the wind. This time around, Qin Wentian's footsteps were as firm as a mountain. Scram! Luo Qianqiu roared in rage. Scram! Qin Wentian similarly roared, and both of them were simultaneously forced backwards. However, Luo Qianqiu only retreated a single step, while Qin Wentian retreated over 10 steps. The disparity between their cultivation bases was clear for all to see. Qin Wentian only felt his insides trembling, as though a terrifying lightning energy was rushing into his body, wanting to destroy it. However, the moment he raised his eyes, There was an unshakable determination and stubbornness in his clear gaze. At the same time, there was an indomitable determination to move forward. The spectators felt their hearts surging with emotions. Who would have thought that Qin Wentian would actually be able to withstand Luo Qianqiu's second strike? That terrifying attack earlier, even those at the 8th level of arterial circulation would have been easily annihilated. Yet, Qin Wentian had actually managed to withstand it. There was no longer any snow beneath the feet of the two of them. A cold wind gusted by, fluttering Luo Qianqiu's white robes. He had actually retreated a single step. To him, this was a humiliation. Even if it was only a single step. Even if Qin Wentian's innate technique was extraordinary, and might even be an Earth-grade innate technique. But so what? He was Luo Qianqiu, and his innate techniques were all tyrannical as well. His astral souls contained explosive power. There was no reason for him to retreat. Are you ready for the third strike? Luo Qianqiu inclined his head, staring at Qin Wentian. His voice was filled with arrogance, as though announcing the end of the battle. His second astral soul had already been released, and the lightning astral energy within his body was howling. This strike would completely destroy Qin Wentian. Boom. However, at this moment, Qin Wentian abruptly stepped out, releasing both of his astral souls. The 6 arterial pathways in his body began to seethe with power. The countenances of the spectators froze. After which, they saw Qin Wentian's silhouette dashing out like a hurricane, as fast as lightning. His body leapt up into the air, akin to a great rock spreading its wings. How is this possible? The eyes of the spectators narrowed. Only Yuanfu realm cultivators could soar through the air. Yet Qin Wentian could actually stride through the air? Even Luo Qianqiu was stunned. However, he didn't even have the time to be stunned. At this moment, Qin Wentian descended from the skies. His eyes were resplendent, and his long hair fluttered in the wind. From those eyes, Luo Qianqiu could see a will that could destroy the heavens and earth with a single palm strike. This will directly entered his mind, transforming into images that were branded onto him. How fast? The countenances of the spectators froze. This time around, Qin Wentian didn't passively defend. He actually took the initiative to launch an attack. The figure descending from the skies unleashed his strongest attack as he blasted out a palm strike. This palm strike was still the same emptiness imprint. However, this palm strike was as heavy as a mountain, akin to a mountain peak pressing down on Luo Qianqiu. At this moment, Luo Qianqiu only felt the pressure of a mountain pressing down on him, causing his countenance to stiffen. He was a prideful person. He had always believed that Qin Wentian would stand there and receive his strongest attack. His strongest attack would directly destroy Qin Wentian. However, he had clearly overestimated himself, and also underestimated Qin Wentian. In that instant, Luo Qianqiu didn't even have the time to think. He could only lift his palms and blast out with them. Boundless amounts of lightning and thunder energy erupted forth, destroying everything in this space. Yet, it was unable to destroy Qin Wentian's determination. Pung! The terrifying might of the collision caused Luo Qianqiu's body to bend under the pressure, as though he was on the verge of collapse. Groaning in agony, Luo Qianqiu's body trembled violently from the pressure. 3 moves. Qin Wentian was incomparably arrogant as he stared at Luo Qianqiu. Scram! Luo Qianqiu howled in rage. Boundless energy converged into the form of the Thunder God's sword, slashing down towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's countenance froze. His left palm slammed downwards, causing rumbling sounds to echo out, akin to the pressure of a mountain. The crowd could even see the shadow of a mountain, yet the mountain was actually split apart. Qin Wentian's body was flung through the air, landing a distance away. Groaning in agony, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. This is the 4th move. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at Luo Qianqiu. The gazes of the crowd were all on him. 3 moves. Yet Luo Qianqiu wasn't able to force him back. In fact, they were evenly matched. Staring at the astral souls floating above Qin Wentian's head, the crowd couldn't help but feel a sense of surrealism. His combat prowess was already so tyrannical, yet he was still injured in the end. Yet, it seemed as though it wasn't able to block out his radiance. He was Qin Wentian. In this battle, he had made a name for himself. Astral souls from the 3rd and 4th heavenly layer, tyrannical combat prowess, and an indomitable character. In addition to the fact that the Emperor Star Academy stood behind him, it was as though they could see a resplendent star slowly rising up into the skies, radiating a radiance that belonged solely to him. You are very intelligent. Luo Qianxiu was silent for a moment. As he stared at Qin Wentian, his eyes filled with arrogance. You hid your strongest attack and only used it at the last moment. Taking advantage of my unprepared state, I managed to avert your nightmare. Luo Qianxiu slowly continued, I have to say, you already have the qualifications for me to take a serious look at you. However, the next time you face me, I will definitely not give you such an opportunity. Even at this moment, Luo Qianxiu's tone was still as arrogant as ever. The gazes of the crowd once again converged onto him. That's right, he was Luo Qianxiu, the demon-level genius Luo Qianxiu. So what if Qin Wentian had an extraordinary combat prowess? Luo Qianxiu's radiance couldn't be overshadowed. If this was a real battle, the ending would definitely be Qin Wentian's miserable defeat. Qin Wentian could feel the arrogance radiating from Luo Qianxiu, but his eyes were still as calm as ever. The first time I met you in the Emperor Star Academy, you were already so arrogant. The blood ember fruits I snatched from the dark forest, yet you claimed that they belonged to you? Because at that time you could easily suppress me. The second time we met, in the dark forest, you were still as domineering as ever. You wanted my life and the you back then was able to do so. Today we meet again. 3 moves, yet you were unable to defeat me. In fact, you even went against our agreement and used a 4th move, yet you are still as arrogant as ever. Since that's the case, the next time we fight, I will show you how laughable and pathetic your arrogance is. Qin Wentian slowly spoke, his eyes filled with determination and determination. He too had his own pride. This was the 3rd time he had clashed with Luo Qianxiu. Next time he would cleanse the slate clean, and Luo Qianxiu would pay the price for his arrogance. This was his will, Qin Wentian's will. The crowd stared at Qin Wentian, a hot-blooded youth with the heart of a ferocious tiger. Today, Qin Wentian was already worthy of pride. Chapter 92. Luo Qianxiu stared at Qin Wentian, but there were no fluctuations in his countenance. The environment he grew up in was different from the people of Chu. Ever since he was young, he had seen too many geniuses and heard too many lofty words. Naturally, he had also seen many demon-level geniuses die prematurely. He was very clear that no words could compare to actions. No matter how lofty the words were, they would eventually turn into dust in the wind. This was a world where the victor was the king, and the loser was the villain. Luo Qianxiu's martial heart was incomparably resolute. He wouldn't waver just because of a few words spoken by Qin Wentian. In his eyes, Qin Wentian was just a passerby. After he completed his mission in the Emperor Star Academy, he would leave Chu and pursue a broader stage, contending against even more demon-level geniuses. Chu was too small, there was no place for him. At the end of this year there will be a grand banquet. I'll be waiting for you. Luo Qianxiu stared at Qin Wentian, causing the countenances of the crowd to freeze. They naturally knew what the grand banquet Luo Qianxiu was referring to was. The Chu country was no exception. Every year, before the end of the year, there would be a grand banquet to celebrate the martial Dao. As long as the people of Chu were below 30, or below Yuanfu, they would all be able to participate. This kind of atmosphere was extremely intense, and because it was only held once a year, the majority of people would have a chance to participate. As for Yuanfu realm cultivators like Wu Xiao, they wouldn't be participating because their goal wasn't here. Luo Qianxiu returned to Chu Tianjiao's side. Qin Wentian didn't pay too much attention to Luo Qianxiu's words. 3 moves have passed. I hope that your highness can give me a promise. Qin Wentian calmly stated. Yunaro, come back. Chu Tianjiao spoke to Yunaro. Yunaro nodded his head and stepped onto the snowy path, returning to Chu Tianjiao's side. However, he still had his head lowered, feeling that he had lost all face. Qin Wentian. Chu Tianjiao smiled as he looked at Qin Wentian. If I didn't guess wrongly, the young genius in the Divine Weapon Pavilion who can inscribe 3rd-level divine inscriptions should be you, right? Chu Tianjiao smiled as he glanced at the 2 Yuanfu experts beside Qin Wentian, as he calmly stated, as though he knew everything. Young genius of the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Qin Wentian? The hearts of the crowd trembled again. Their eyes were fixed on Qin Wentian. Yes, it's me. Qin Wentian lightly nodded. He didn't conceal anything. He knew he wouldn't be able to hide anything from Chu Tianjiao. Regarding the matters of the Qin clan, I can completely disregard you. As for the Yi clan and O clan, I can also plead on your behalf. As long as you no longer interfere with the matters of the Qin clan, I'm willing to aid you in your cultivation. Chu Tianjiao abruptly stated. No one would have thought that he would suddenly say such words. The crowd couldn't help but to sigh in admiration as they stared at that handsome countenance. The third prince of Chu Tianjiao, was truly a dragon among men. As long as Qin Wentian nodded his head, he would be able to cast aside everything else and even lend Qin Wentian a hand. This was giving Qin Wentian a chance. As long as he agreed, Chu Tianjiao could disregard all grudges and even mediate between the Yi clan and O clan. From then on, he and Chu Tianjiao could become friends. And the only condition for this was that he wouldn't interfere with the matters of the Qin clan. Because the only conflict between Chu Tianjiao and Qin Wentian was the matter of the Qin clan. Disregarding the matter of the Qin clan, they could become friends. Someone recognized by the Emperor Star Academy. Someone protected by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. A young genius who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. Currently, Qin Wentian seemed to have many halos surrounding him. As long as he was willing, he would be able to soar to the skies in the Chu country. No one would be able to obstruct his path. However, if he agreed, he wouldn't be Qin Wentian. Your Highness, thank you for your kind intentions. Qin Wentian calmly replied, and didn't continue speaking. Evidently he had rejected. But of course this was within the expectations of the crowd. Since he was standing in the middle of the snowstorm today, obstructing the troops escorting Qin Chuan, the crowd already knew what sort of character he was. Since I, Chu Tianjiao, have already made a promise, I will definitely accomplish it. Qianxiu's promise is my promise as well. Chu Tianjiao didn't say anything more. He had given Qin Wentian a chance. As for whether or not Qin Wentian wanted it, it was up to Qin Wentian, not him. Regardless of the time, his words were still as appropriate as ever. Even if Luo Qianxiu made the decision for him, he wasn't the least bit angry. On the contrary, he said that Luo Qianxiu's promise was his promise as well. The people of the royal capital of Chu seemed to have a clearer understanding of the rumored third prince. Chu Tianjiao, the heavens chosen of the Chu country. It was impossible for such a person to not ascend to the throne. The current emperor had grand ambitions, and only had children at a very late age. Hence, even the oldest prince was only 28 years of age. However, among all the princes, he favored the third prince, Chu Tianjiao. Bring Qin Chuan back. Don't let him suffer any more grievances. Chu Tianjiao calmly commanded. Momentarily, the troops turned and escorted Qin Chuan out of the prison. Qin Chuan's gaze pierced through space, landing on Qin Wentian. Your father will always believe that you will prove yourself, and prove to the entire Chu country that you are capable. Qin Chuan's eyes reddened as he silently stated in his heart, the Chu country will not be able to obstruct your footsteps. Your world should be even more vast. Child, this is only a hurdle in your path. Don't hold yourself back too much because of me. Your future is still very long. As he thought in his heart beneath his messy hair, a pair of eyes that shone like the stars in the night sky stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian also stared at him. It was as though he could read the look in Qin Chuan's eyes. He silently stated in his heart, Father, your son will not disappoint you. After the troops escorting Qin Chuan left, Bai Qingsong cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian. He then turned to Autumn Snow, who was still staring at him, and said, Autumn Snow, let's go. Autumn Snow froze for a moment, before nodding her head. Staring at the youth in the distance, her heart was in a state of chaos. It wasn't because of regret, but because from the start till the end Qin Wentian had never looked at her seriously, not even once. She still remembered the warning she had given to Qin Wentian in the past, that they were people from two different worlds. Qin Wentian had also replied to her, that they were indeed people from two different worlds. Now, reality had proven who was in the right and who was in the wrong. Autumn Snow lifted her head and gazed at the drifting snowflakes in the sky. A trace of confusion could be seen in her eyes. For the first time she started to doubt herself. The troops escorting the prisoners gradually left, but the spectators in the surroundings had yet to disperse. Looking at the three youths standing side by side, Chu Tianjiao, Luo Qianqiu, and Yi Wuke, they were still as outstanding as ever. After this battle, the spectators had a clear understanding of Chu Tianjiao and Luo Qianqiu. Naturally, they also knew Qin Wentian. Amidst the snowstorm, the silhouette of the three youths. Today, no one had won or lost, but their faces had been deeply imprinted into the hearts of the spectators. From today onwards, they would never be able to forget Chu Tianjiao's confidence, Luo Qianqiu's arrogance, and Yi Wuke's profoundness. Similarly, they would never be able to forget the tenacity, determination, and extraordinary talent of that youth. Today, Qin Wentian was the same as Chu Tianjiao and Luo Qianqiu. This was the first time he entered the royal capital of the Chu country, and the first time he was recognized by the crowd. His name was Qin Wentian, a young genius who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. Behind him stood the Divine Weapon Pavilion, as well as the will of the Emperor Star Academy. Qin clan Qin Wentian. Chu Tianjiao and the rest also departed, treading on the snowstorm, leaving behind a trail of footprints on the snowy ground. Behind them, there was still one more person, Yanaro. If there was a loser today, it would definitely be Yanaro. Qin Wentian's gaze was still fixed on the horizon, only to see the person beside him patting him on his shoulders. Don't worry, since Chu Tianjiao has already promised in front of everyone, he won't make things difficult for your father. Lightly nodding his head, Qin Wentian glanced at the people beside him and smiled. Many thanks to seniors for your help today. You are now the treasure of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. In the future I might still need your help. That Yuanfu cultivator laughed. The two of them were naturally from the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Naturally, they dared to stand behind Qin Wentian. In the world of cultivation, those with strength would never have to worry about not being able to survive. They were all at the Yuanfu realm. And today, they only wanted to ensure Qin Wentian's safety. Chu Tianjiao wouldn't be so foolish as to send experts to deal with them and the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The status of the Divine Weapon Pavilion in the Chu country was extremely special. The emperor wouldn't dare to touch them easily. If the Divine Weapon Pavilion was angered, they might bring all the resources they had to the Chu country to fight against the Chu country. This was also the reason why Chu Tianjiao wanted to rope in Qin Wentian. A young genius who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions in the future, there would be many experts who would need his help. A high-level divine inscriptionist could easily rope in many people. Since the people from the Emperor Star Academy have arrived, we will take our leave first. That person nodded his head to Qin Wentian before departing as well. Qin Wentian turned and stared at the silhouette behind him. That silhouette wearing a conical bamboo hat slowly walked away, as though he was just a passerby. Senior Ren, many thanks. A grateful smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. A good man should be able to distinguish between gratitude and grudges. He would always remember those who had helped him. Today, during the most difficult period of his life, the Divine Weapon Pavilion and the Emperor Star Academy stood behind him, helping him to withstand the pressure from the Emperor. He would forever remember this kindness. Chapter 93. It was easy to add flowers to embroidery, but difficult to provide charcoal in snowy weather. Today, Qin Wentian was standing here, and it was because of the Divine Weapon Pavilion and the Emperor Star Academy that he was in the midst of a snowstorm. Naturally, he wouldn't forget this kindness. Luo Huan slowly walked over, arriving at the side of Qin Wentian as she smiled. Good fellow. Luo Huan understood that from today onwards, those who wanted to deal with Qin Wentian would have to worry even more. Even if they wanted to assassinate him, they would have to think things through carefully. In the royal capital of Chu, every single major power had their own powerful information network. Even the slightest movement of the grass in the wind would not escape the eyes of the intelligence network. Hence, no matter who had enmity with whom, very few people would dare to assassinate a descendant of a major power. Once the intelligence network was activated, it would be extremely terrifying. Those people seemed to have already missed the best opportunity to assassinate Qin Wentian. Maybe in the past, they didn't think that Qin Wentian had the qualifications to make them act so cautiously. But now, the Qin Wentian who stood in front of everyone was undoubtedly worthy of their attention. Naturally, this included the Yi clan and the O clan. Previously, the O clan only hoped that Orkhan would be able to rely on his own strength to deal with Qin Wentian. Orkhan failed to do so, and was punished by the clan to be confined. But now, if the O clan wanted to deal with Qin Wentian, they had to be extremely cautious. Qin Yao also walked over, pulling on Qin Wentian's hand as a smile bloomed on her face. Wentian, thank you for everything you've done. Qin Yao gazed at Qin Wentian as she gently smiled. Elder sister, what nonsense are you talking about? Qin Wentian pinched Qin Yao's cheeks as he replied, that's my father. We are blood-related siblings and you're thanking me? I was wrong. Qin Yao gazed at the face that was gradually losing its childishness, as the smile on her face grew even more radiant. Seeing Qin Wentian's achievements, she felt gratified from the bottom of her heart. It's good that you know your mistakes. Qin Wentian laughed. In the future, don't return to the Snowcloud country. I'm afraid the Crown Prince of Snowcloud isn't a good person. Qin Yao nodded. But will Qin Shang and Qin Ji be alright? I heard that the Crown Prince of the Snowcloud country is also an extraordinary character. I'm sure he wouldn't be so petty. Since we didn't offend him in any way, there's no need for him to act against Qin Shang and Qin Ji. Qin Wentian continued, however, it's still better to write a letter to them, telling them to keep a low profile and quietly leave Snowcloud country. In the Chu country, there was a power that specialized in the delivery of letters. As long as one was able to pay the price, they could deliver the letter to the person they wanted in an extremely short period of time. All right, I'll write a letter when I get back, Qin Yao replied. The group of them departed, heading in the direction of the Emperor Star Academy. Little Rascal appeared out of nowhere, leaping onto Luo Huan's back. Snow was still fluttering in the air, but upon seeing the departing silhouettes, the crowd also gradually dispersed. However, Qin Wentian's name was being circulated around the Chu country at the fastest speed. Just the fact that he was able to inscribe third-level divine inscriptions was already sufficient to cause his name to resound throughout the royal capital. Not to mention, the events that happened today were already sufficient to cause people to discuss enthusiastically, becoming the topic of conversation after meals. When Qin Wentian returned to the Emperor Star Academy, several people were currently strolling in the snow. The fluttering snowflakes seemed to have increased the beauty of the academy. Looking at the faces filled with vitality, a radiant smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. The experiences of the past year had caused him to feel that he had matured a lot. Qin Wentian is back. From afar, several gazes were cast in the direction of Qin Wentian, as traces of a strange light could be seen flickering in their eyes. Following the snowy path, Qin Wentian slowly walked forward. Beside him, two young ladies sneaked a glance at Qin Wentian as they whispered to each other, Xinger, he's Qin Wentian. In his first year, he defeated Yanaro and was even able to exchange 3 palm strikes with Luo Qianqiu. What a handsome fellow. Right now, he should be the #1 genius among our batch of new students. From the looks of it, even Morongfeng, whom he killed in the past, paled in comparison. It seems like Qin Wentian wants to catch up to senior brother Luo's footsteps. The voices of the two grew softer and softer as they gradually faded away, causing an expression of bewilderment to appear on Qin Wentian's face. The speed at which news traveled was extremely fast. It seemed like before he returned, the news had already reached the Emperor Star Academy. Seems like you've become famous. Luo Huan laughed beside Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian to shrug his shoulders. It seemed like the attention he had attracted this time around wasn't small. In his heart he still felt gratified. After all, as a 17-year-old youth, he would naturally feel happy when others admired him. Naturally, he had not reached the stage where his ego was inflated. After all, he was very clear that the reason why he had such an ending today, other than his own talent, was because of the support of the Divine Weapon Pavilion and the Emperor Star Academy. He wasn't so dazzling that he could rely on his own strength to make everyone worship him. If there was such a day, the radiance radiating from him would definitely be even more dazzling than the stars in the sky. The world was extremely vast, and his life had only just begun. This was only the Chu country, yet there were already so many geniuses. If that was the case, how spectacular would the outside world be? That's only 3 moves. Senior brother Luo has yet to truly fight against him. The current him still doesn't have the qualifications to be mentioned in the same breath as senior brother Luo. At this moment, an ear-piercing voice drifted over. Qin Wentian and the rest turned their gazes over, only to see a man and a woman standing there. The expression on the man's face was extremely unsightly. As for the woman, upon seeing the gazes of Qin Wentian and the rest, an expression of panic flashed on her face. What nonsense are you talking about? After all, Qin Wentian has only entered the Emperor Star Academy for a year. It's not fair for you to compare the two of them now. Maybe you've overestimated him. The man stared in the direction of Qin Wentian as he spoke, causing the countenance of the woman to stiffen. Qin Wentian turned his head, no longer looking in that direction, nor did he care about their words. Hugging little rascal in his arms, he continued walking forward. Seems like it's because that young lady worships you more, causing the man to feel jealous. Luo Huan smiled as she shook her head. They wouldn't place such a small matter in their hearts. After all, it was impossible to change the views of others. Upon hearing the news of Qin Wentian's return, many speculated in their hearts that the conflict between the Knights Association and Qin Wentian would escalate to a new level. Qin Wentian returned to his room, only to see Fatty Fanlu squinting his eyes as he stared at Qin Wentian. Stepping forward, he hugged Qin Wentian as he said, "Boss, I'm so happy to see you again. Damn Fatty, at least you still have some conscience." Qin Wentian hammered Qin Wentian on his shoulders as the two of them separated. Fanlu was still tightly holding onto Qin Wentian's hands. "Boss, I've always been worried about your safety. I've even lost a few pounds of weight. Seeing that you're fine, I feel much more energized. Oh yeah, boss, I heard that you can inscribe third-level divine inscriptions now. Did you bring me a few divine weapons?" Qin Wentian stared at Fan Li's bloated figure as he rolled his eyes. Looking at Fatty's narrowed eyes, he replied, "I'm really too touched." "No need to feel touched. Just give me a few third-level divine weapons to protect myself." Fatty's eyes shone with a bright light. "No," Qin Wentian replied. "I heard that boss already has a divine inscription interspatial ring. Not only that, you even have a long spear and an ancient halberd. It's fine even if you don't have third-level divine weapons. Just give me a few high-grade second-level divine weapons and some Yuan meteor stones for my cultivation." Fatty persisted. "I still don't have any." Qin Wentian continued. "Good brother, you're so loyal. Didn't you say that we'll share blessings together?" Fatty stared at Qin Wentian with a hint of bitterness in his eyes, causing goosebumps to appear all over Qin Wentian's body. He was completely defeated. "Fanlu, you don't have to worry about not having enough divine weapons in the future." Luo Huan rolled her eyes at Fatty before turning to Qin Wentian. "Junior brother, I think that teacher would like to meet with you. Do you want to come with me?" I have some matters that I wish to consult teacher and senior sister on." Qin Wentian nodded his head. "Fanlu, you come along as well." Luo Huan spoke to Fatty. Fanlu nodded his head repeatedly as the few of them departed together. Not far away, the gazes of many freshmen were cast in their direction as they sighed in their hearts. Although they were all freshmen, the distance between them and Qin Wentian had already widened. Mustang was currently sitting cross-legged at the edge of a first-rate pond, his eyes closed in meditation. The teachers of the Emperor Star Academy were also under constant pressure. They had to cultivate unceasingly to improve themselves, in an attempt to reach a higher realm. When Luo Huan brought Qin Wentian and Fanlu over, Mustang opened his eyes, and when he looked at Qin Wentian, a gratified expression could be seen in his eyes. "Teacher." Qin Wentian and Fanlu bowed to Mustang, showing their respect. "I'm ashamed to say this. As your teacher, I haven't even had the time to teach you anything. Yet you already have such achievements today." Mustang smiled. Although he said this, he was actually very happy in his heart. Qin Wentian's performance had caused him as a teacher to feel proud. Back then in the Sky Harmony City, this disciple will always remember teacher's kindness. Qin Wentian gratefully replied, "I know that you are a person who values relationships. If not, old Ren, who rarely appears in public, wouldn't have made this trip just for you. Now, your status in the Emperor Star Academy is no longer inferior to me, an elder." Mustang was extremely happy as he continued, "Take a seat." Seeing that Qin Wentian and the rest were seated, Mustang continued, "Now that you have some achievements, and will step into the Yuanfu realm sooner or later, I will tell you some things that I know. This way your horizons will be broadened. After all, those who have received the recognition of the Emperor Star Academy will definitely be able to leave Chu in the future. The heavens and earth will not be able to stop you. Chapter 94. Qin Wentian sat cross-legged, listening attentively. Even Fan Lu, who was beside him, had a solemn expression on his face. Naturally, the world of cultivation wasn't as simple as he had imagined it to be. The level they had come in contact with was still shallow, because they didn't have the qualifications to enter the higher realms. At this moment, Mustang was undoubtedly trying to broaden their horizons, telling them about the existences they had never come into contact with before. With a wave of Mustang's hand, a gigantic circle appeared on the ground. After which, Mustang placed a small stone in the corner of the circle. This stone is the Chu country. Mustang spoke, his words causing the pupils of Qin Wentian and Fan Lu to narrow. That stone was the Chu country? What was this circle? These are the Snowcloud country, Yen country, Glacial country. Mustang placed the pebbles into the center of the circle. Very quickly, the number of pebbles within the circle was quite large, but they only occupied a very small corner of the circle. After which, Mustang circled the area where the stones were placed. Momentarily, this area was not small, but when compared to the size of the circle, it was still very small. Mustang lifted his hands, as he placed a slightly larger rock in the middle of the circle. Including Chu, there are 10 countries. Behind them is this gigantic stone, the 9 Mystical Palace. Mustang calmly stated, his words causing the hearts of Qin Wentian and Fan Lu to tremble. The 9 Mystical Palace should be a sect, but it was a power that was above the 10 countries. A single sentence from the 9 Mystical Palace can cause the Chu country to change owners, or even allow the Chu country to be annexed by other countries. However, as a transcendent power, the 9 Mystical Palace will not interfere in the internal affairs of the Chu country. It is a transcendent power, but only above the other countries. Occasionally, when the 9 Mystical Palace takes a liking to some outstanding disciples, they will send them over to the 9 Mystical Palace. Mustang continued, Luo Qianqiu originated from here. Qin Wentian clenched his fists, momentarily feeling an immense pressure bearing down on him. No wonder Luo Qianqiu had such a high status in the Chu country. It was because he originated from the 9 Mystical Palace. Not only that, he could faintly sense that the Emperor Star Academy seemed to have something against Luo Qianqiu. Qin Wentian also understood why back then when Luo Qianqiu wanted to deal with him, Teacher Mustang had personally made a trip down to apologize to him. At that time, he had yet to receive the true recognition of the Emperor Star Academy, yet Luo Qianqiu actually dared to kill him. Luo Qianqiu's father was also a student of the Emperor Star Academy. Not only that, his talent was exceedingly outstanding, and he was heavily nurtured by the Emperor Star Academy. Old Ren even accepted him as a personal disciple, and took good care of him. Mustang didn't stop as he continued. His father went to the 9 Mystical Palace, and the Emperor Star Academy wouldn't obstruct their students from achieving a higher stage. On the contrary, the Emperor Star Academy felt gratified for him. However, Luo Qianqiu's father conspired against the Heavenly Star Pavilion of the Emperor Star Academy. He didn't rely on his own efforts to pass the test, and instead, he tried to steal something that didn't belong to him, and brought it to the 9 Mystical Palace. This incident almost brought a calamity to the Emperor Star Academy. Qin Wentian and Fan Lu were once again startled. So it turned out that there was actually such a complicated situation. Since Luo Qianqiu's father had the backing of the 9 Mystical Palace, how did the Emperor Star Academy manage to remain unscathed? Fan Lu seriously asked. The Emperor Star Academy has nurtured countless students, but not all of them were Luo Qianqiu's father. There were some who established themselves outside of the Emperor Star Academy, and they also had extraordinary achievements. Mustang pointed to a place outside of the 9 Mystical Palace's territory as he continued. There was one person who, after he learned of this matter, exerted pressure on the 9 Mystical Palace. This person was an existence that even the 9 Mystical Palace feared. In the end, both sides reconciled. Qin Wentian felt gratified when he heard this. The Emperor Star Academy had a history of a few thousand years, and there were many outstanding students who graduated from it. Evidently, they hadn't forgotten the academy that nurtured them. In the surroundings of the 9 mystical palaces territory, there are also many countries. Behind these countries there are also powers similar to the 9 mystical palace. For example, the Misty Peak, the Setting Sun Mountain, etc. Mustang drew out many circles that were similar to the 9 mystical palaces territory, and very swiftly, they occupied quite a large portion of the territory. This simple yet vivid drawing allowed Qin Wentian and Fan Lu to clearly feel how tiny the Chu country was, like a tiny pebble in the middle of the Emperor Star Academy's territory. And yet, they were still struggling to advance forward in this tiny pebble. The 9 mystical palace doesn't participate in the political affairs of the Chu country, but why are they able to stand behind the scenes and control 10 countries so easily? Not only that, with a single word they could change the ruler of the Chu country? Mustang stared at Qin Wentian and Fan Lu as he asked. Naturally, it's because of their strength. Qin Wentian replied. That's right. In the Chu country, if a heavenly dipper sovereign appeared, it would be the law of the country. However, there are a few heavenly dipper sovereigns in the 9 mystical palace. Currently, I heard that Luo Qianqiu's father was trying to break through to the heavenly dipper realm. I wonder if he has already broken through. Mustang's words allowed Qin Wentian to understand what kind of status Luo Qianqiu had in the Emperor Star Academy. The upper echelons of the Emperor Star Academy definitely didn't want to accommodate him, but because of his background, the Emperor Star Academy had no choice but to compromise. This disciple has a question to consult. Qin Wentian asked. Speak. Mustang nodded. Since Chu Tianjiao has such outstanding talent, his future shouldn't be in the Chu country, right? Qin Wentian asked, but he didn't finish his sentence. Based on Chu Tianjiao's talent, there was a high possibility that the 9 mystical palace would regard him highly. Since that was the case, why was he so stubborn about the emperor's position? Any emperor would have to pave the way for strength. Strength was the most important thing. Mustang naturally understood the meaning behind Qin Wentian's question. He smiled as he replied, Wentian, cultivation is a path that requires a lot of resources. If Chu Tianjiao is able to control the entire Chu country, in that case, who would obtain the most amount of resources? Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened, but he soon understood. Mustang continued, the emperor doesn't necessarily have to govern the Chu country. He can easily find a few clans like the Yi clan to assist him in governing the country. His own cultivation wouldn't be affected at all. Okay, next I'll talk to you about some serious matters. Mustang gazed at Qin Wentian, as traces of joy could be seen in his eyes. I initially thought that I would only be able to talk to you about this matter next year. Who would have thought that your growth would be so fast? Hence, I have to bring this up in advance. Qin Wentian was somewhat curious. He didn't know what Mustang wanted to talk to him about. In the Chu country, there would always be a grand banquet at the end of every year. This grand banquet is named the Junlin Banquet. There are 2 meanings behind this name. Firstly, the emperor would personally attend the banquet. Secondly, the banquet would signify that the emperor would descend upon the world. Qin Wentian's heart trembled as he heard this. Most probably, this was the grand banquet Luo Qianqiu was talking about. It was called the Junlin Banquet. Junlin, the emperor descends upon the world. This naturally isn't a simple banquet. The Junlin Banquet will be held at the Chu Emperor District, where the Chu country was founded. The Junlin Banquet invites the heroes of the world to gather in one place. The emperor personally attends the banquet, and the young geniuses below the Yuanfu realm will spar against each other. Those who perform outstandingly during the Junlin Banquet will have their names resound throughout the entire Chu country, bringing glory to the Chu country. The top 9 rankers on the Junlin Banquet all have the aura of a monarch descending upon the Chu Emperor District, and will receive the favor of the Chu country. Not only that, I can also tell you clearly that the reason behind the Junlin Banquet is the 9 mystical palace. Previously, Mustang had said that the 9 mystical palace stood behind the various Chu countries, because they wanted to select talents. At the same time, the top 9 rankers of the Junlin Banquet will all receive rewards from the Chu country. Not only that, for those from the various martial academies, if they manage to obtain the top 9 rankings, their academies will also bestow rewards to them. As for our Emperor Star Academy, we will only bestow rewards to the top rankers, and this reward will be a direct entry to the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion. 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion? Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. The 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion was an existence he had always been curious about. Everyone in the Emperor Star Academy knew that the 6th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion already contained peak-level Yuanfu cultivation arts as well as peak-tier Earth-grade innate techniques. In that case, what about the 7th, 8th, and 9th levels? Yes, the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion is the fastest shortcut. Other than the top ranker of the Junlin Banquet, there are other methods to enter the Heavenly Star Pavilion. Either way, the price to pay would be too great or it would take too much time. Luo Qianqiu couldn't do any of these. Hence, he only had one method, and that was to obtain the top ranker of the Junlin Banquet. At that time, he would be able to step into the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion just like his father. The 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion is also the gateway to the 8th and 9th levels. I have no idea what the situation is like inside. I only know that Luo Qianqiu's father obtained the top ranker of the Junlin Banquet and was highly regarded by the 9 Mystical Palace, after which, he stepped into the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion, but he didn't pass the test to enter the 8th level. After that, he wanted to borrow the strength of the 9 Mystical Palace to step into the 8th level. How could the Emperor Star Academy tolerate such a rebellious act? Mustang's words caused Qin Wentian to have a clearer understanding of the past. Luo Qianqiu's father, despite not passing the test, still wanted to step into the 8th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion, enraging the Emperor Star Academy. Luo Qianqiu's appearance in the Emperor Star Academy was a gamble between the Emperor Star Academy and Luo Qianqiu's father. The Emperor Star Academy didn't want Luo Qianqiu to obtain the top ranker of the Junlin Banquet. However, now that Luo Qianqiu has already broken through to the 8th level of arterial circulation, he definitely has a chance to break through this year. Even if he fails, if he still hasn't broken through to Yuanfu next year, no one would be able to stop him. Mustang stared at Qin Wentian as he seriously continued. Now that the Emperor Star Academy has approved of you, the upper echelons of the Emperor Star Academy would definitely hope that you would be able to stop Luo Qianqiu in the Junlin Banquet next year. What if he obtained the top ranker of the Junlin Banquet this year? Qin Wentian continued. Could it be that the Emperor Star Academy would really allow him to step into the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion? That means that the Emperor Star Academy has already lost this gamble. Since they've lost, they have no choice but to admit it. Mustang inclined his head, gazing at the drifting snowflakes as he continued. Every year, the Junlin Banquet is the grandest event in the Chu country, and it's also the time when the number of young geniuses is the highest. Among them, there would definitely be many who are at the 9th level of arterial circulation, or even at the peak of arterial circulation. Let's hope that there will be someone who can defeat Luo Qianqiu. He didn't think that Qin Wentian would be able to stop Luo Qianqiu this year. After all, there were only 2 months left until the Junlin Banquet. Time was too short, and although Qin Wentian could participate in the Junlin Banquet, it could only be considered as a tempering exercise. Chapter 95. Qin Wentian's current cultivation base was at the 6th level of arterial circulation. A year from now, he should be able to step into the peak of the arterial circulation realm. This year's time was sufficient for Qin Wentian to stabilize his cultivation base and strengthen the abilities bestowed by his astral souls in combat. At that time, during the Junlin Banquet, Qin Wentian would be able to contend for the position of the top ranker. Pinning my hopes on others? Qin Wentian mumbled. He had already experienced Luo Qianqiu's combat prowess. Although Luo Qianqiu had yet to unleash his full strength, he was already strong enough. If it weren't for the fact that Qin Wentian had made the first move, the ending would have been different. Since Luo Qianqiu wanted to enter the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion, Qin Wentian would naturally not underestimate him. Luo Qianqiu originated from the 9 Mystical Palace. Naturally, Qin Wentian wouldn't underestimate him. Luo Qianqiu definitely had his own trump cards. Even if the chances for this year's Junlin Banquet aren't high, I still have to try. Qin Wentian spoke. I think so too. It's just that the Junlin Banquet has a certain degree of danger. Luo Qianqiu, Orkan, and the rest will all be participating. Just treat this as a tempering exercise for yourself. If you really can't handle it, just withdraw. Be careful. Mustang spoke to Qin Wentian. Currently, the Emperor Star Academy had high hopes for Qin Wentian. Mustang understood what this high hopes meant. The 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion was the pathway to the 8th and 9th levels. Back then, the founder of the Emperor Star Academy, the Azure Emperor, had left behind the Heavenly Star Pavilion. In the long river of history, there had never been a single person who managed to enter the 9th level. The upper echelons of the Emperor Star Academy had always hoped that one day, a disciple with outstanding character and talent would appear, creating history. Teacher, can I enter the 6th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion now? Qin Wentian laughed foolishly, causing Mustang to roll his eyes. You want to open the back door? Now that you can inscribe 3rd-level divine inscriptions, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to obtain more Yuan meteor stones. No matter what, you should at least contribute to the academy. Qin Wentian's countenance sank, only to hear Mustang continuing, how about this, you can upgrade your Emperor Star Jade Medallion to the 4th level, and as for the amount of Yuan meteor stones required to upgrade it from the 4th level to the 5th level, you can tell the elder over there to put it under my name. This way, you will be able to enter the 5th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion. As for the higher levels, you will have to think of your own methods. Thank you, teacher. Qin Wentian's expression changed. The 5th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion. This way, he would be able to come into contact with a sea of Earth-class mid-grade sacred arts. Teacher, what about me? What about me? Fatty pointed to himself, his eyes flickering unceasingly. Stay here and cultivate with me. Mustang glared at Fan Lu. If you were more diligent in your cultivation, you wouldn't have been left behind by Wentian. Fatty had a bitter expression on his face as he nodded his head. During this period of time when Qin Wentian was missing, Mustang had frequently guided him in his cultivation, and treated him extremely well. For this, Fan Lu was naturally very grateful. Luo Huan also smiled. This fatty's talent was very good, but he was too lazy. Even so, his current cultivation base was already at the 5th level of arterial circulation, and he could already be considered one of the strongest among the new students. Fatty, I will help you upgrade your Emperor Star Jade Medallion to the 4th level. Qin Wentian spoke to Fan Lu, causing Fan Li's eyes to widen as he replied, Good brother. Teacher, we will take our leave first. Qin Wentian bade farewell to Fan Lu, before departing with Luo Huan. Mustang lowered his head, staring at the gigantic circle he had drawn. Qin Wentian and Fan Li didn't ask what this gigantic circle was, because they didn't want to bite off more than they could chew. To them, the 9 mystical palace was already an unfathomable existence. The power represented by this gigantic circle wasn't something they could imagine. After Qin Wentian and the rest left, a silhouette appeared behind Mustang. Mustang stood up and bowed to the person who had just arrived. Old Ren, why don't you let this little brat upgrade his Emperor Star Jade Medallion by himself? Evidently, the academy had already opened the back door for Qin Wentian by giving him the name of Mustang. He has already cultivated the 1,000 Hands imprint to the 3rd stance, the Emptiness imprint. It's a mid-tier Earth-grade innate technique, and he can already unleash its full potential. The 5th level is just right for him. I hope that he will be able to grow faster, and it would be best if we can give him a huge amount of pressure during the upcoming Junlin banquet. Pressure is also the motivation for him to advance. Old Ren spoke with a deep meaning in his words. I hope that my judgment this time around will be able to atone for my mistakes in the past. Mustang stared at Old Ren as he sighed in his heart. It seemed like Old Ren still felt heartache and self-blame for nurturing Luo Qianqiu's father. After Qin Wentian upgraded his Emperor Star Jade Medallion to the 5th level, he once again entered the Heavenly Star Pavilion. Finally, he chose 2 innate techniques, both of which were mid-tier Earth-grade innate techniques. Since he could cultivate the 1,000 Hands imprint to the Emptiness imprint level, this indicated that he had already comprehended and cultivated innate techniques of this level. Innate technique Falling Mountain Palms. This was a set of palm techniques that were linked together. As one's mastery of it increased, the might of the palm techniques would grow stronger and stronger. At the pinnacle of mastery, every palm strike would be akin to the descent of a mountain peak. As to why Qin Wentian chose the Falling Mountain Palms, it was because he had a divine imprint that was compatible with it. This divine imprint was akin to a mountain peak and was a 2nd-level divine imprint. Previously, Qin Wentian had tried to condense divine energy using this divine imprint, But the speed was extremely slow, and the consumption of astral energy was even greater. However, he was already able to do so. During his battle with Luo Qianqiu, he had condensed some divine energy from this divine imprint, allowing him to unleash a tyrannical might. Now, the speed at which he condensed divine energy from his palms was getting faster and faster. Sooner or later, he would step into the second level of the spiritual refinement method. At that time, he would be able to condense divine energy from this mountain-like divine energy. Even now, he could still condense some of it and store it in his acupuncture points as a trump card. The second innate technique that Qin Wentian chose was the Berserk Beast Halberd technique. It had a total of 4 stances and 36 variations. The 4 stances were respectively the Azure Dragon stance, White Tiger stance, Vermilion Bird stance, and Black Tortoise stance. Each stance contained 9 variations, flowing like the clouds and flowing like water, in a single breath, possessing both offensive and defensive capabilities. The innate techniques in the Heavenly Star Pavilion of the Emperor Star Academy were all-encompassing. There were sword techniques, saber techniques, spear techniques, halberd techniques, etc. Qin Wentian felt that the tyrannical nature of his Heavenly Hammer constellation technique, as well as the tyrannical nature of his astral energy, were extremely compatible with the tyrannical nature of the ancient halberd. After seeing the Berserk Beast Halberd technique, he didn't hesitate and immediately decided to cultivate it. As such, in terms of pure offensive innate techniques, he already had the Thousand Hands imprint and the Falling Mountain Palms. In terms of both offense and defense, he had the Berserk Beast Halberd technique. As for movement techniques, he had the 9 Heavenly Garuda movement technique. If he could cultivate all of these to perfection, his combat prowess would definitely be greatly enhanced. 3 days later, in an exquisite courtyard within the Emperor Star Academy, beside a pond, Qin Wentian slept with his eyes closed, oblivious to the happenings in the outside world. In the Emperor Star Academy, once a student's Jade Medallion reached the 4th level, they would be able to choose a courtyard to stay in. Naturally, Qin Wentian could do so. Naturally, Qin Wentian wasn't just sleeping. In his dreams, there was a sea that was crazily roaring. Beside the sea, there was a silhouette wielding an ancient halberd. Every time the halberd danced, it was as though a ferocious tiger was howling in rage. The howling of the tiger was akin to the howling of a pack of tigers in the forest. A gigantic wave slammed against the sea. The silhouette's halberd technique changed, and the wind and rain were impenetrable. In front of him, an incomparably gigantic Xuanwu appeared, swallowing and spitting out waves. At this moment, the silhouette took a step forward, and his entire person transformed into a Garuda, soaring upwards. With a howl of rage, the ancient halberd transformed into the Azure Dragon stance, as numerous Azure Dragons roared in the direction of the sea. After a long period of time, the silhouette landed on the ground and sat down on the beach. This silhouette was none other than Qin Wentian. Since it was a dream, it could be magnified. Why not have a grand dream? Imagine yourself to be stronger and unleash the full power of the innate techniques. This way, the acceptance of the innate techniques would be stronger. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky. The sky wasn't the sky, but rather it was a gigantic painting, the painting of rivers and mountains. Every stroke of the brush formed mountains, rivers, and earth, as well as a supreme innate technique. Qin Wentian's gaze gradually sank into contemplation. Every stroke of the brush could form mountains, rivers, and earth. The mountains, rivers, and earth seemed to be formed from the inscriptions of the painting. Divine imprints could also be used to form divine energy. As he cultivated the innate techniques, he discovered that the method of exerting force was extremely similar to that of divine imprints. For example, the falling mountain palms. When he exerted force, he controlled his true yuan, transforming it into a mountain peak that smashed downwards. When he condensed the mountain divine energy, his attack was extremely similar to the falling mountain palms. It was just that the falling mountain palms was much more complex, yet they achieved the same result through different means. Qin Wentian had a bold thought. Could innate techniques be derived from divine imprints? Staring at the painting of rivers and mountains that hung in the air, Qin Wentian sank into contemplation. Even if others discovered something unusual, they wouldn't think too deeply about it. Even if they thought about it, only an extremely small number of people would explore it. Because not all stellar martial cultivators were like Qin Wentian, possessing the spirit refinement method and the painting of rivers and mountains, as well as having extraordinary attainments in inscribing divine imprints. After visualizing for 3 days, Qin Wentian still didn't obtain an answer. However, Qin Wentian was still elated, because his understanding of innate techniques seemed to have deepened. Maybe he would be able to comprehend them according to his own way of thinking. Only to see Qin Wentian inscribing on the ground. Every stroke of his brush seemed to contain a mysterious energy within. This time around he didn't condense the divine imprint within his body. Instead, he used his hands to attempt to inscribe the divine imprint of his own imagination. The marvelousness of divine imprints lay in the fact that the divine imprints created by the predecessors were all extremely perfect. As long as there was a single mistake, the divine imprint would lose its original strength. Hence, if one wanted to rely on their own strength to create a complete divine imprint, it was an extremely difficult task. Qin Wentian wanted to try it out. The painting of rivers and mountains in the air, wasn't it an attempt by the green-robed middle-aged man to comprehend his own insights? Chapter 96. In the dreamscape, Qin Wentian had completely sunk into that unique state. He had forgotten how much time had passed, and he didn't even know what he was doing. Even when Qin Yao called out to him from the outside world, he didn't even notice her. Hence, Qin Yao didn't continue to disturb his dreamscape. If there were experts who were proficient in the mandate of dreams here, they would definitely know that Qin Wentian's current state was that he had entered into a deep dreamscape. In this state, it was equivalent to entering a deeper level of comprehension and cultivation. His comprehension ability was at its peak. 2 days later, in front of the dreamscape beach, Qin Wentian's fingers finally stopped. He stared at the diagram he had inscribed as he awoke from that special state of mind. Success! Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. The diagram he inscribed was a human-shaped diagram. That person wielded an ancient halberd, thrusting forward. Such a simple movement, yet it gave off a feeling of boundless strength. That kind of aura, an indomitable will, capable of destroying everything in its path. This diagram seemed to have a mind of its own. As long as one stared at it, they would discover that it was like a living diagram, able to bring them into a miraculous state. Can this be considered a brand new type of divine imprint? Qin Wentian murmured. Human-shaped divine imprint. If it could be considered a new type of divine imprint, what grade would it belong to? Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the empty space. He didn't know how much time had passed, and with an intention of his will, Qin Wentian exited the dreamscape. This was a dream he created himself. He could control his will to enter and exit the dreamscape. In the outside world, Qin Wentian opened his eyes, returning to reality. He discovered Qin Yao pacing back and forth at a distance away. He couldn't help but smile as he greeted sister. Upon seeing that Qin Wentian had awoken, Qin Yao couldn't help but smile as she walked to his side. You've been cultivating for a really long time. Did you wait for a long time? Qin Wentian asked. I came here occasionally because I wanted to tell you something. I've received a letter from the Snow Cloud country. Qin Yao's countenance turned solemn as she continued. In the letter, they said that at the end of the year, they would come to chew together with the crown prince of the Snow Cloud country. Why did they do that? Qin Wentian frowned. Not sure. Qin Yao shook her head. But soon after, an extremely important piece of news circulated around the royal capital of Chu. For the Junlin banquet at the end of this year, the crown prince of Snow Cloud will be bringing people along with him. Seems like the Junlin banquet this year will be extremely lively, Qin Wentian said in a low voice. Then he smiled at Qin Yao and said, Sister, don't worry too much. Everything will be clear at the end of the year. It's good that you know about this. Don't feel too much pressure and cultivate hard. I'm useless myself, so I can only place my hopes on you. Qin Yao said apologetically. She knew that with her strength, she would never be able to save her father and grandfather. This burden could only fall onto Qin Wentian's shoulders. Don't worry, sister, there will definitely be a day when I stand high up in the sky, looking down on the entire Chu country. Qin Wentian gently caressed Qin Yao's face as he consoled her with a smile. Qin Yao smiled as she nodded her head. I'll go prepare something for you to eat. Good, I can taste sister's cooking again. Qin Wentian laughed as Qin Yao walked towards the room at the side. Qin Wentian had chosen an independent manner. So naturally, he would bring Qin Yao to stay together with him. After Qin Yao left, Qin Wentian found a few pieces of paper and started to inscribe the picture on the paper. However, in the real world, Qin Wentian wanted to inscribe the picture in the dreamscape, but to his surprise he failed again and again. Evidently, in the dreamscape he had hypnotized himself, pushing himself to his limits. However, as Qin Wentian gradually calmed his heart, he repeated this process several times, and when Qin Yao was done preparing the dishes, the picture was finally completed. After all, he had already achieved this in the dreamscape. In the real world, he only needed time to adapt to it. What an exquisite picture, it's as though it's alive. Qin Yao stood in front of Qin Wentian, her beautiful eyes glimmering with a strange light. Wentian, why do I feel a tyrannical aura gushing towards me? That silhouette seems to be asleep and awake at the same time, and when its eyes open and close, it's as though a divine light would shoot out from them, as though it wanted to use the ancient halberd in its hands to tear apart the heavens and earth. The more Qin Yao looked at the picture, the more curious she felt. Her consciousness felt as though it was about to be sucked into the picture. She felt as though she was standing on the surface of the sea, facing this incomparably tyrannical silhouette, and could be destroyed at any moment. This is the first runic pattern I've inscribed. I wonder if it can be considered a divine imprint. Qin Wentian laughed. Divine imprints are incomparably wondrous. Even the most ordinary of first-level divine imprints are so vivid and lifelike, as though they contain a life of their own. This picture that I inscribed in this strange state, if it really has the same effect as a divine imprint, its grade shouldn't be too low. What a monster! Qin Yao didn't know how to describe Qin Wentian. Just a single glance at the picture made her feel that it was incomparably profound. Qin Wentian had actually comprehended it on his own. Such a level of comprehension was something she couldn't hope to match. Naturally, she was happy for Qin Wentian. This was her younger brother, the person closest to her. Okay, let's go eat. Qin Yao pulled Qin Wentian along as they left. Qin Wentian's eyes lit up as he enjoyed a sumptuous meal with Qin Yao. After enjoying a heartwarming lunch, Qin Wentian entered the city of illusions through the dream sky forest. Life in the academy was peaceful and free, but one couldn't forget to raise one's strength. In the city of illusions, Qin Wentian appeared in an empty space. He rubbed the interspatial ring on his finger, and with a slight intention of his will, an ancient halberd appeared in his hands. Indeed, this dreamscape is so realistic. As long as I bring something into the dreamscape, it can be used in the dreamscape. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered, transforming into a series of afterimages, as he moved at an extremely fast speed. Many people in the surroundings avoided Qin Wentian when they saw him. Currently, Qin Wentian's fame was getting greater and greater. He was someone who could easily defeat Yanaro and exchange blows with Luo Qianqiu. If one didn't have a cultivation base at the 8th level of arterial circulation, no one would dare to antagonize him. This was especially so for Qin Wentian, who wielded an ancient halberd. Very quickly, Qin Wentian spotted a member of the Knights Association. This person wielded a long spear, and his eyes gleamed with sharpness. Bzzz, a raging wind gusted by. Qin Wentian's silhouette was akin to a gigantic bird. As he dashed towards his opponent with lightning speed, that person knew that there was no way to retreat. Similarly, he brandished his long spear and dashed towards Qin Wentian. White Tiger Stance. Executing the Berserk Beast halberd art, Qin Wentian stabbed out with his ancient halberd, resembling the roar of a ferocious tiger. His halberd collided with his opponent's long spear, instantly causing it to be flung away. Poochie! The tip of the halberd, as well as the crescent moon blades, pierced into his opponent's body. That pain was akin to torture. That person stared fixedly at Qin Wentian, before his silhouette vanished from sight. After killing his opponent, Qin Wentian immediately sped away. Not long after, he encountered the second member of the Knights Association. A gust of wind gusted by as the ancient halberd swept out horizontally. The crescent moon blades were as sharp as the wings of a vermilion bird, radiating a cold golden light as they directly sliced through the throat of that person. Fresh blood splattered as the silhouette of that person also vanished from sight. Time and time again, as long as they encountered members of the Knights Association, they would definitely die under the ancient halberd. Qin Wentian had become the nightmare of the Knights Association. Many in the City of Illusions had personally witnessed Qin Wentian slaughtering the members of the Knights Association. This news circulated around the Emperor Star Academy, causing many to sigh. Evidently, Qin Wentian hadn't forgotten the humiliation he had suffered at the hands of Qin Wentian. The conflict between the Knights Association and Qin Wentian would only grow more and more intense. As for Orkan, it was said that after he broke through to the 9th level of arterial circulation, he went out to temper himself. Everyone was clear that Orkan was preparing for the Junlin banquet a month later. The moment he returned, he would definitely not spare Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian also encountered a tough opponent in the City of Illusions. His opponent was clad in blue robes, and his cultivation base was at the peak of the 8th level of arterial circulation. His combat prowess was extremely terrifying. Qin Wentian was naturally extremely excited as he frenziedly unleashed his Berserk Beast Halberd technique, comprehending new insights in the midst of battle. The 4 stances and 36 transformations of the Berserk Beast Halberd technique was a complete set of halberd techniques. The more one mastered it, the greater the power they could unleash. In Qin Wentian's dreams he imagined himself using his strongest halberd technique, and a true azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise would appear in a single strike. At this moment, Qin Wentian only felt that the palm strike of his opponent was illusory. His ancient halberd danced in the air, transforming into a xuanwu, protecting him. However, when the palm strike of his opponent landed on the xuanwu, it trembled 9 times, causing cracks to appear on his defense. Qin Wentian's silhouette floated backwards as he laughed. "Let's fight again another day." After speaking, he turned and left, arriving at a separate space by himself, after which, he began to practice his halberd techniques. The reason why he didn't continue fighting earlier was because he had comprehended something. The ancient halberd slashed out again and again, tyrannical beyond compare. However, Qin Wentian still felt that something was amiss. There was no aura of the divine imprint, nor was there the resolution of that halberd strike. Qin Wentian. At this moment, a pleasantly surprised voice drifted over. Qin Wentian halted his training, and after which, he saw the silhouette of Mu Rou. What a coincidence! Qin Wentian smiled. "After I heard that you returned to the Emperor Star Academy, I would come here to see if I could meet you again." Mu Rou glared at Qin Wentian. Only now did Qin Wentian realize that this was the place where he and Mu Rou would frequently spar. Seems like he was too engrossed in it. Awkwardly smiling, Qin Wentian asked, "Is there something you need from me? Can't I look for you if there's nothing?" Mu Rou had a bitter expression on her face, causing Qin Wentian to smile bitterly. Mu Rou then replied with a smile, "I'm just teasing you. Tomorrow is my 18th birthday. Can you come here to give me your blessings, and at the same time spar with me to temper my movement techniques? I can do it now." Qin Wentian laughed, as he kept his ancient halberd. "Come and attack me." "Okay." Mu Rou laughed, as she launched an attack towards Qin Wentian. Mu Rou discovered that her attacks were already unable to touch Qin Wentian. Not only that, every time she tried to dodge, his movements would be exquisite to the extreme. It was as though with just a thought, his entire body would dance along with his movements, extremely exquisite. However, this kind of tempering was extremely beneficial to her own innate techniques. She slowly comprehended it, and only when she was drenched in sweat did she stop. Together with Qin Wentian, she left the City of Illusions. After Qin Wentian exited the City of Illusions, he returned to his courtyard, as though he was deep in thought. Glancing at the painting in the pavilion, Qin Wentian's eyes brightened. Mu Rou had treated him very well, and since it was her 18th birthday, he should give her a present to congratulate her. Chapter 97. Today was Mu Rou's 18th birthday. She was in the prime of her youth, yet she felt exceptionally lonely and cold. Because this year, her clan didn't summon her back to prepare a banquet for her. Many of her old friends also didn't come to congratulate her. Mu Rou was currently in an elegant courtyard. This was the place she shared with 2 other girls. Upon seeing the two girls, Mu-ro called out, "Mu-ro, what's the matter?" The two girls turned and asked Mu-ro, "Today is my birthday, let's have a meal together." Mu-ro said to Shui-yuan and Ke, "No need, I have some matters to attend to today. You should spend your time by yourself." Shui-yuan smiled. "I have matters to attend to as well. I won't be accompanying you." Ke replied as well. She didn't even bid farewell and directly walked out of the courtyard. Seeing this scene, Mu-ro sighed in her heart. Although the two of them were smiling, it was merely a smile on the surface. It was obvious that the other party didn't want to have too much contact with her. Mu-ro had long sensed this. But even so, she still felt a little disappointed. Chu Ling also lived here in the past, and the relationship between the four of them wasn't bad. Especially between her and Chu Ling, Shui-yuan and Ke liked to go along with them, while Chu Ling was cold and indifferent. Mu-ro didn't mind so much, and was very close to Shui-yuan and Ke. Mu-ro also stood up and left, heading towards the Dream Sky Forest, arriving at a familiar location in the City of Illusions. However, she didn't see Qin Wentian for too long, so she left. If it was in the past, she would have waited a little longer. But today, she was absent-minded, and didn't seem to be in the mood to do so. At this moment, Shui-yuan and Ke returned to their residence. When they left, they received a picture scroll sent over by the Sky Transport Network. The Sky Transport Network was one of the 3 largest networks in the Chu country. At the same time, it was also the largest transportation network in the Chu country. They reared many demonic beasts, and as long as one was willing to pay the price, they would be able to send items across countries in a short period of time. After all, many of the youths from the various academies were far away from their hometowns, and would often need to send letters back home. This painting was sent from the Emperor Star Academy to Mu-ro, but because Mu-ro wasn't at home, the Sky Transport Network passed it to Shui-yuan for her to deliver. Shui-yuan and Ke were somewhat curious, but they didn't pay too much attention to it. They brought the painting with them as they went to listen to an elder's lecture. Although they weren't as close to Mu-ro as they were in the past, they still agreed to help deliver the painting to Mu-ro. They wouldn't lose anything that was given to Mu-ro by the Sky Transport Network. The Sky Transport Network was one of the 3 largest companies in the Chu country. In order to send the items to all the countries, this in itself required a terrifying information network that was familiar with every place and every person. "Shui-yuan, what is this?" asked Chu Ling curiously when she saw the scroll in Shui-yuan's hand. "Oh, this was sent over by the Sky Transport Network for Mu-ro. It seems that it was sent from the Emperor Star Academy, but the sender didn't leave their name behind." Shui-yuan replied, "Emperor Star Academy? Open it and take a look." Chu Ling spoke to Shui-yuan, causing Shui-yuan to hesitate. This didn't seem too good, but upon seeing Chu Ling's frown, she still opened the painting. Momentarily, a marvelous painting appeared before their eyes. Their bodies involuntarily retreated a step, and even the painting fell to the ground. Earlier, at the instant the painting was opened, they felt a tyrannical aura, as though the painting was about to imprint itself into their souls. "What's going on?" The people at the side all came over, staring at the miraculous painting on the ground. They could all sense the aura emanating from it. It was as though this painting wasn't dead, but a true expert wielding an ancient halberd, wanting to destroy everything in its path. What a marvelous painting! It must be extremely valuable. If it's someone who loves to paint, they would definitely collect it. The surrounding people all exclaimed in admiration, while Chu Ling snorted, "It's just a painting." Chu Ling was thinking in her heart, who was it that actually sent such a painting to Mu-ro? "What are you guys doing?" At this moment, a middle-aged man walked over. He was none other than the teacher for today's lecture. Upon seeing the crowd gathered together, he couldn't help but walk over. Momentarily, the crowd parted to form a path. The gaze of the teacher landed on the ground, and he also saw the painting. "Whose painting is this?" the elder from the Royal Academy asked. "Shui-yuan's." Someone pointed to Shui-yuan. "Can you lend it to me for a while?" the elder asked Shui-yuan, causing an expression of difficulty to appear on Shui-yuan's face. This painting was given to Mu-ro by the Sky Transport Network, and the instant she agreed to pass it to the Royal Academy, she would have to take responsibility for it. The Sky Transport Network had sought their opinion, and they had voluntarily agreed to pass it to the Royal Academy. Shueyuan, in the future, if you encounter any difficulties in your cultivation, you can look for me. The elder spoke again, causing Shueyuan's countenance to stiffen. There was no harm in lending it to him. As an elder of the Royal Academy, it was impossible for him to lose the painting. Shueyuan nodded her head. The elder smiled as he kept the painting. Today's lecture is temporarily cancelled. Everyone, please disperse for now. After speaking, he took the painting and hurriedly left, causing the other students to click their tongues in wonder. They surrounded Shueyuan, asking her what that painting was, and why the elder of the Royal Academy valued it so highly. With regards to this news, Mu Rou didn't know about it. Even Qin Wentian himself didn't realize the value of the painting. After Mu Rou returned to her residence, she discovered that Shueyuan seemed to be more polite to her than before. Not only that, there was a flicker in her eyes, causing her to feel extremely strange. However, she didn't pay too much attention to it, and spent the rest of the day in disappointment. Her 18th birthday was probably the loneliest birthday she had ever had as far as she could remember. Maybe it was because of the pressure from her clan, but her father, who had always doted on her, didn't invite her back. Those major characters were too sensitive to matters related to politics. How could they care about her feelings? The date of the Junlin banquet gradually approached. The 9 mystical palace might stand behind the scenes. Luo Qianqiu might be able to contend for the top ranker position, and the crown prince of Snowcloud would also come. Chu Tianjiao's authority would only grow more and more stable. At this moment, the friends of Qin Wentian would naturally be disliked. That day, the youth standing amidst the snowstorm had rejected the third prince, Chu Tianjiao's request to be friends. Today, the students of the Royal Academy didn't know that in the Royal Academy, there were many teachers who were in a state of shock because of a painting sent over from the Emperor Star Academy. Naturally, they didn't know that the painting originated from the Emperor Star Academy. According to the elder who received the painting belonged to Shueyuan, a student of the Royal Academy. Since they already knew the origins of the painting, they naturally wouldn't investigate further. Today, the Royal Academy decided to display the painting in the Royal Academy. Not only that, they would invite people from all over to view it, especially those from the weaponsmithing world. This news quickly spread throughout the royal capital of Chu, and on the second day, it had already spread throughout the Royal Academy. A painting belonging to a student of the Royal Academy, Shueyuan, was a priceless treasure. The Royal Academy actually invited people from all over to view it, causing a huge commotion. However, Shueyuan felt extremely uneasy in her heart. That painting didn't belong to her, and if this matter was exposed, she would definitely lose all face and prestige. Shueyuan thought that now, she could only try to build up a good relationship with Mu Rou. After they became more familiar with each other, she would return the painting to Mu Rou before telling her the truth. Mu Rou was baffled. She didn't know why Shueyuan was so cordial towards her today, and even invited her to view the mystical painting that was on display in the academy. However, she was also very curious about this matter, so she followed Shueyuan to the exhibition hall. The exhibition hall of the Royal Academy was extremely spacious and grand. In the center of the first level, a painting was displayed. Many people stopped to view it, but they had to maintain a certain distance from it. Near the painting, there were also old men of virtue and prestige. Although they looked old, there was a unique charm in their eyes, as though they were filled with vigor. This painting should be a divine imprint. Such a humanoid divine imprint, it's definitely a revolutionary creation. I wonder which grandmaster created this. An old man commented, having an extremely high evaluation of this painting. If this painting is classified as a divine imprint, this should be an initial grade 3rd level divine imprint. However, the aura it exudes is extremely extraordinary, and I dare to say that this divine imprint has never appeared in the Chu country before. Another person commented, causing the crowd to be stunned. This painting was actually a divine imprint. A revolutionary creation, priceless. More and more people commented, and some of them even asked the elders of the Royal Academy, "Is this painting for sale?" You have to ask the person in question. That elder was none other than Shueyuan's teacher. His gaze landed on Shueyuan as he smiled. "Shueyuan, are you willing to sell this painting?" Shueyuan's countenance froze, as she glanced at Mu Rou who was beside her. If we were to sell it, the value of the divine inscription painting would be unimaginable to you, Qin Wentian said. That elder continued, also, how did you obtain this painting? Which grandmaster created it? Mu Rou also cast a glance at Shui Yuan, feeling somewhat taken aback. Shui Yuan actually possessed such a valuable painting, causing an uproar. The grandmasters from the Star River Association have arrived. At this moment, a voice drifted over, as a few silhouettes walked over. Evidently, they were also here for the painting. Chapter 98. This time around, there were 4 people from the Star River Association. The one in the lead appeared to be around 50 years of age, and the instant he entered, his gaze landed on the painting. The person on his left was none other than Murin, and behind him was Gretchen from the Royal Academy. She knew that the vice president would be coming today, so she specially came to lead the way. President Swa, the elders of the Royal Academy, as well as the people around the painting, all clasped their hands in greeting. Evidently, this person was an important character. The vice president of the Star River Association, Swa Yin, was in charge of the weaponsmithing department. His authority was extremely great, and he himself was also a third-ranked weaponsmith. Swa Yin nodded his head to the crowd, before turning his gaze to Shui Yuan. Little miss, how about selling this painting to me? I can use a third-ranked divine weapon to exchange for it. Shui Yuan's heart pounded. She wanted to say yes, but this wasn't hers. She couldn't afford the price of pocketing the treasures of the Sky Transport Network. No need. Shui Yuan's heart was pounding. Little miss, you can tell me what you want. Such opportunities are hard to come by. Swa Yin continued. Shui Yuan didn't even dare to look him in the eye. Swa Yin, it doesn't seem good to force a little lass like this. At this moment, a voice drifted over. Swa Yin's eyes narrowed as he gazed at the silhouette walking over. The person who came was dressed simply, and was an extremely ordinary old man. If he was placed in a crowd, no one would pay him a second glance. However, the moment he appeared, Swa Yin's heart involuntarily trembled. With this old man here, it wouldn't be easy to obtain the painting. Seems like I have to keep a low profile. Swa Yin silently mused. After which, he whispered into Murin's ears, obtain this painting. Also, think of a way to find the owner of this painting. If he's in Chu, you have to invite him to the Star River Association. Murin nodded her head. If that lass refused to speak, they would have to mobilize the intelligence network of the Star River Association in the next few days. The commotion caused by this matter grew larger and larger. Shui Yuan's heart was filled with panic, and she struggled internally. She was prepared to retrieve the painting tomorrow, and then return it to Mu Rou. The news had even spread to the various martial academies, causing a commotion in the Emperor Star Academy. Now, the royal school was even temporarily open to the public, allowing people to come and admire the paintings. Today, Mu Rou's mood had calmed down quite a bit. She had once again returned to the Dream Sky Forest. Ever since she had been alienated by the others, she preferred to train in the City of Illusions, constantly becoming stronger. As usual, Mu Rou headed to a familiar place. To her surprise, she ran into Qin Wentian. She could not help but smile and ask, "Why are you here? Yesterday you asked me to come here to wish you well. I arrived a little late and didn't see you, so I came here today to try my luck." Qin Wentian shrugged his shoulders, causing an expression of guilt to appear on Mu Rou's face as she replied, "You really came here to wait for me? Yesterday I only stayed here for a while before leaving. I'm sorry." "So that's how it is. I thought you encountered something unpleasant." Qin Wentian revealed a smile. He had already regarded Mu Rou as his friend, so he would naturally take her feelings into consideration. "You're thinking too much." Mu Rou gently continued, "Oh yes, Qin Wentian, you are a genius that can inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. Currently, our Royal Academy is exhibiting a painting that, according to the evaluation of the Grandmaster Inscriptionists, is a third-level divine inscription painting. Do you want to come to the Royal Academy to take a look?" Divine inscription painting? Qin Wentian had always been focused on his cultivation. Although the Emperor Star Academy had some news about it, he had never heard of it before. Yes, it's a painting in the form of a human. wielding an ancient halberd. It's very similar to your divine weapon, Mu Rou said as she recalled the ancient halberd in Qin Wentian's hands. Qin Wentian furrowed his brows upon hearing this. A painting in the form of a human, wielding an ancient halberd? Wasn't this the present he had prepared for Mu Rou? Mu Rou, did you receive the present I prepared for you yesterday? Qin Wentian casually asked. Present? Mu Rou froze for a moment before a look of pleasant surprise appeared on her face. Smiling, she replied, I didn't expect that you would send me a present. I haven't received it yet. What did you get from a friend of yours or even the Sky Transport Network? Mu Rou's words undoubtedly confirmed Qin Wentian's conjecture. It seemed like he had to find someone from the Sky Transport Network. Wait for me at the Royal Academy, I'll make a trip there now. Qin Wentian spoke as he turned and departed. Why are you in such a hurry? Mu Rou was somewhat puzzled as she called out to Qin Wentian, I'll wait for you at the entrance of the Royal Academy. After which, she also departed with a smile on her face. Thinking that there were still people who remembered her birthday, Mu Rou's heart warmed. Those who distanced themselves from her because she was down and out had made her understand the fickleness of human nature. True friends wouldn't behave in such a manner. Qin Wentian found someone from the Sky Transport Network who was stationed at the Emperor Star Academy. Upon receiving the news, the Sky Transport Network immediately started to investigate, and they were extremely cooperative with Qin Wentian. As for Qin Wentian himself, he arrived at the Royal Academy. As expected, Mu Rou was waiting for him outside the Royal Academy. So fast? Mu Rou stared in astonishment at the rapidly shrinking body of little rascal beside Qin Wentian, as her beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. This little fellow's speed is even faster than a draconic horse. Qin Wentian laughed. Let's go take a look at the divine inscription painting you were talking about. Seems like you are indeed very interested in divine inscriptions. Mu Rou laughed as she led the way. Although the two of them didn't interact much in the real world, spending most of their time in the dreamscape, they were still very familiar with each other and treated each other as good friends. The number of people surrounding the exhibition hall grew even more. Many grandmasters from the world of weaponsmiths rushed over, and when they saw the divine inscription painting, they were all extremely shocked. This was a subversive divine inscription. Not only that, this divine inscription seemed to be able to be broken down into multiple parts, yet it was still a complete entity. Many people had the impulse to take it for themselves and study it. However, in the Royal Academy, no one dared to make a move to snatch it away. Before Qin Wentian arrived at the exhibition hall, he already met with two familiar faces, Yizhan and Lu Yan. Yizhan halted his steps, as a cold light flickered in his eyes. However, the corners of his mouth still curled up in a smile as he glanced at Mu Rou. Mu Rou, so your relationship with Qin Wentian is actually so good. If this matter were to spread to the Mu clan, it wouldn't be good. What does it have to do with you? Mu Rou coldly replied as she swept a glance at Yizhan. Qin Wentian glanced at Lu Yan, his countenance extremely calm. In the past, he had mistakenly treated Lu Yan as his savior. Now that the misunderstanding had been cleared up, he was very calm. He couldn't stop Yizhan from being together with Lu Yan, but if Yizhan were to land in his hands, he wouldn't be polite. Is that so? Yizhan coldly laughed, as though he wanted to say something, only to hear Qin Wentian continuing, You'd better shut your mouth. As the sound of his voice faded, a cold intent gushed forth from Qin Wentian as he lunged towards Yizhan, causing Yizhan's countenance to stiffen. Staring at Qin Wentian, he coldly laughed. If it wasn't for the Emperor Star Academy supporting you, would you still be alive today? If it wasn't for the Royal Academy, you would already be a dead man. Qin Wentian took a step forward, as a surge of pressure gushed forth, causing Yizhan's countenance to drastically change as he retreated 2 steps. Let's go. Qin Wentian spoke to Mu Rou, only to see Mu Rou coldly staring at Yizhan. If you weren't born in the Yi clan, would you still be so arrogant? Everything he has achieved, he had to depend on himself. What qualifications do you have to say the word if? As she spoke, Mu Rou cast a glance at Lu Yan, who was standing at the side. Your judgment really isn't that good. After which, she followed Qin Wentian into the exhibition hall, causing Yizhan's countenance to turn ashen. His originally gentle countenance now had traces of malevolence in it. I really want to see how long more he can jump around, Yizhang coldly stated, as he held onto Lu Yan's hand. He won't be able to go far. In the future, he won't be able to touch you. Lu Yan lightly nodded her head, as she also entered the exhibition hall. When Qin Wentian saw the painting, a sharp glint of light flashed in his eyes. This was a gift he had prepared for Mu Rou, yet Mu Rou didn't even know about it. Not only that, this gift had been displayed in the Royal Academy without their consent. If it was anyone else, they would surely be in an extremely bad mood. However, when Qin Wentian neared the painting, he was blocked by someone. That person stated, "Students are not allowed to go near it." Qin Wentian snorted. Something that belonged to him, yet he wasn't allowed to go near it. "He's from the Emperor Star Academy, Qin Wentian." Yizhan's voice drifted over, and in an instant, the gazes of several people landed on Qin Wentian. Someone coldly laughed. "Qin Wentian from the Emperor Star Academy? Is he here to visit our Royal Academy? I heard that he's able to inscribe third-level divine imprints, but I don't know if it's true or not. I'm afraid he's here to learn." The elders of the Royal Academy also turned their gazes towards Qin Wentian, only to hear one of them saying, "Since he's from the Emperor Star Academy, stand at the back." The Royal Academy had always been in direct competition with the Emperor Star Academy, especially since the Emperor Star Academy was known as the #1 academy in the Chu country. Under such circumstances, the Royal Academy naturally felt enmity towards the Emperor Star Academy. Not only that, this student of the Emperor Star Academy was none other than Qin Wentian. You're tuning into the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.